Are you new to Star Wars Canon? Are you a lifelong fan that's trying to keep up with the ever-expanding universe? Do you wish you had a one-stop shop for everything you could possibly need to stay up to date on Star Wars novels, comics, and more? Look no further. The Star Wars Canon Library mobile app has you covered. Containing a full color-coded timeline, cover art, and links to nearly every piece of canon, and a constantly updated list of upcoming material, this mobile app is essential for any fan that loves that galaxy far, far away. This is the last Star Wars Canon app you'll ever need. Available now on Google Play Store, coming to iOS spring 2021.
This is John Jackson Miller, and you're listening to the Star Wars Canon Podcast. May the Force be with you.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
Hello there, guys and gals, and welcome to the Star Wars Canon Podcast, episode 42. This is where the fun begins. My name is Brian Miller, and I'm so grateful you've decided to join us yet again this week to talk about our favorite thing in the world, Star Wars. We're going to be talking some Mandalorian finale this week and answering a whole veritable crap ton of your mailbag questions since we didn't do any last week. First off, let's talk about some of our co-hosts real quick. You guys know him and love him. This week, I've got Mr. Richard J. How's it going, Jay?
Hey, Brian. Guess what, Brian? I've watched The Mandalorian multiple times, and I am so stoked to get this underway. I finally stopped crying, not through use of trying. I just have nothing left to give.
How many times have you watched it so far?
Including all the reactions that I've seen and gathering people's thoughts and views online, I've probably just had it on a constant loop. It's 1:45 in the morning for me now, and I probably had it on a constant loop since 8 o'clock the previous morning when it aired.
Fair enough. And we've also got a treat for you guys this week. You guys know him from his self-titled YouTube channel, the one and only Mr. Kyle Katarn. How's it going, Kyle?
Hello there. Thanks for having me on. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here today, man, to help us cap off the podcast for 2020. For those listeners that don't know, would you be willing to kind of give a bit of a rundown of what your channel is about and kind of what got you into Star Wars, man?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I've been a Star Wars YouTuber for about 4 years now. I first got into reaction videos with the Force Awakens teaser. It was the first time I really became aware of that as a thing. And then they really kind of exploded around the time of the Red Wedding, and I got really interested in doing it itself. My first video that I posted was Twin Sons, the Rebels episode, back when that was coming out. And it's really, the channel has just exploded since then. I'm having a great time doing it. Started as a hobby and just seeing where it takes me, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of the way this one started as well. I have a feeling that's kind of how they all started, as just a hobby at first, and then the strong survive, I suppose. But awful glad to have you on, man. Awful glad. And I know Jay's the one that set this up. I thought it was only proper to have him on this episode. I know he's a big fan of both channels, and I know Jay was kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? He was. I'll just use the word excited. He messaged me. He was like, "Do you want me to see if I can get Kyle Katarn on?" I was like, "Yeah, man, absolutely, that'd be awesome." And then he was like, "I shot him the message," and then he sent back, "Oh my God, yes, he's absolutely ready to go." I'm like, "All right, cool, let's make this happen." So
it was the will of the Force. The stars just aligned, and I happened to be free today. So
awful glad to have you on this week, man.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Excited to talk about Star Wars.
Before we get going too heavily into our topics for this week, I've got a couple things to talk to you all about. Some announcements. You guys know how it goes. House cleaning won't take too long. The Star Wars Canon Library mobile app is now live on Google Play. It's available for download. It's actually doing really well on downloads, better than I thought it was going to this early on into the game. You guys can download that now. And also, we've got a PayPal pool fund set up if you guys want to help keep the podcast alive. The link for that is in the description of this YouTube. Don't forget to check out our Patreon page if you guys want to help support the podcast in any way. Definitely go over there and check that out as well. We've got basically one tier that you guys can join at this point. Gives you access to some of our Patreon chats on our Discord channel, which you can also find the link to in the description of this video. As an update for the channel, the super chats are now enabled. So I know that this podcast is pre-recorded. Obviously, we can't acknowledge super chats this episode. However, we will make it a point to address those super chats toward the beginning of the next episode, and so on and so forth. If you guys want to help support us that way as well, so that option is also available. Also, keep in mind we've got a Get Vocal. A lot of people don't know what Get Vocal is. It's a streaming platform where you can stream to Facebook and YouTube simultaneously, or you can listen in right there on the website itself. The link for that is also going to be in the description. I've got a live Q&A hangout scheduled for this Sunday night at 7 p.m. We'll be broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube. The event link can be found in the description of this podcast also. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. It doesn't have to be Star Wars, whatever you bring to the table. I've always said I started this channel so I could talk to fellow Star Wars fans and geek out. And the super chats and the live hangouts, I think, are a great way to do that. So wanted to throw that all out there and let you guys know about that as well. Last week, episode 41, we had a full panel talking about the Disney Investors Call. We clocked in our longest episode to date. I think it was 3 hours, 10 minutes, something along those lines. Absolutely monster episode. So definitely go check that one out if you guys haven't seen it already. We posted a poll on our YouTube channel asking you guys which announcement you were most excited about. And at the time of this recording, it looks like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is taking the trophy. And I mean by a long shot. Kyle, because you're our guest this week, I was wondering if you'd be willing and kind enough to kind of give us your impression on the Investors Call. What were you excited about? What were you expecting? What were you not expecting? And what's got you most excited, man?
So first of all, I was blown away by just the sheer amount of content that was offered up in the Investors Call. I was very much expecting the Ahsoka show to be announced, so that didn't really come as a surprise. As soon as I heard about the Rosario casting rumors, I saw that coming. I was expecting a post-Rebels sequel animation project to be released, and I was also expecting the Boba Fett miniseries announcement. Neither of those happened, which kind of threw me for a loop. But I was definitely really excited about all of the things that we did get, and I'll list a couple of them here. For example, Rangers of the New Republic, I'm very excited for. I'm hoping for like kind of an Alaska State Troopers kind of vibe that chronicles a couple of pilots, maybe even Trapper Wolf and Carson Teva themselves. Based on the time period, I think it would be a really great opportunity for cameos from Star Wars Squadrons like Gunny and Keo, or even Iden Versio and Del Mico from Battlefront. It's a wide open moment in the Star Wars timeline, and I think it's ripe for exploring. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that turns into. As for the Ahsoka show, it kind of makes me nervous about the future of animation and whether the Rebel sequel series is going to become a live action adaptation instead. Like, I really hope that we do still get some sort of continuation in animation, even though these stories are making the transition, because I really don't want to send the message that animation is somehow an inferior medium, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm pretty convinced at this point that story of Ezra and Thrawn, I think I at this point I'm pretty much sold that's going to be the Ahsoka series.
Yes, same. I really think that's the case.
I agree with you, because it's one of those things you can't tell that story in a medium too far off from animation. You still have to kind of do it in that television genre, or I shouldn't say genre, but in that medium, because that's still your target audience that you were after for Rebels. So you kind of got to stick with that target audience and completing that story. You can't tell them, hey, dangle this in front of these guys and then give it to this audience over here instead, and yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Yeah. What's your favorite piece of canon to date, man?
Favorite piece of canon to date so far? It's a toss-up. I really love Battlefront Twilight Company by Alexander Freed. Yes. Freed's one of my favorite authors. Haven't picked up Alphabet Squadron yet, but I've read every other canon release he's done. And then the other one would be Lost Stars by Claudia Gray. I love that book. It's some of the best, most evocative writing. I'm not usually one for love stories. I'm not a big romance guy, but Lost Stars completely drew me in. And that's another thing that I think a live action adaptation would be absolutely stellar.
That'd make an amazing series. You'd be seeing all these scenes again from the classic trilogy, but from different points. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be absolutely awesome.
Yeah, in terms of novels, it definitely goes to them. But with comics, you have to give a shout out to Vader, Dark Lords of the Sith by Charles Soule and Giuseppe Camuncoli.
Yes.
Easily my favorite Vader art in canon currently.
It's hard to narrow down a favorite Vader arc because, I mean, every run just gets better and better. And every time they announce a new one, you're like, another Vader
They're really
arc.
good at
Like,
building on the current
yeah.
suspense and just driving it forward. It's very
Yes.
impressive. And then anything featuring Jack Song. So basically anything written by Kevon Scott, because that's a 1-1 ratio.
Right. Yeah, no, I absolutely, man. And one last question before we take off on Mandalorian. Why the name Kyle Katarn? I mean, don't get me wrong. We all know he's a badass. But what about the character do you like so much that made you name your channel after him?
You know, for me, the real draw of Star Wars in general is the escapism. You know, I think that's true for most people. And I think the highest level of escapism I ever achieved as a kid growing up was playing Dark Forces and Jedi Knight and the whole series. Going on adventures with Kyle Katarn for just countless hours, replaying the levels, adding mods and skins, making little movies of my own with the in-game assets. And so the name Kyle Katarn just has a very unique nostalgia power behind it, almost separate from just my love of Star Wars that I grew up with. So I don't know. I'm just especially fond of that element of Star Wars because it really speaks to my growing up, my formative years, turning me into the Star Wars fan that I am today.
Well, you brought up the power behind the character and with the fandom. He is seriously a fan favorite character. And Jay even brought up at one point, because we didn't know how Mandalorian was going to end yet, which we'll talk about here in a second. But we were throwing out ideas of Kyle Katarn showing up because of the Dark Troopers and all this other stuff. And as soon as he said Kyle Katarn, I was like, yeah, no, I'm sold. That's exactly what I want to happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I was hoping for it. And it kind of, it really shows the
It really
legacy
did
of
lay
that
it on
character.
thick, didn't they? All of the different homages to Dark Forces. You got the Dark
Yes.
Troopers. You've got Gideon's supposed plot of artificially trying to imbue himself with the Force. Even Gideon's look, you know, he really resembles Jarek, the primary villain from Dark Forces 2. He's got the black cape with the red outline and very similar chest armor combination. He just needs to get a little bandana. Needs to blind himself to be the spitting image.
That's right. Yeah, no, I loved everything about it. So, yeah, man, let's talk about some Mandalorian then. I know we're itching to get into this. I know this just came out. We're recording this on Friday, the 18th. This will come out tomorrow night on the 19th, Saturday night. But we just came out. Well, some of us just came off of watching this. I just watched it the second time. It's an insane episode. Before we get into it, I do want to say we are talking spoilers because there's no way you can talk about this episode and not talk spoilers. It's
Spoiler alert.
It's physically impossible. So yeah, we are issuing a full bore spoiler alert. Usually we talk Mandalorian the week it comes out, but nothing as big as this has happened in this season. So I mean, there's been some big stuff in this season, but nothing this big. So we are issuing a full spoiler alert. If you guys don't want to hear this part of the podcast, I'll drop a timestamp in the description below, letting you guys know where you can skip to where you can go on to the next part of the podcast. So you've been warned, spoiler alert. So let's get into this episode, man. I only had a couple bullets kind of written down that I really wanted to talk about, but we were already talking about the Dark Troopers. These things are like the T-1000s of the Star Wars galaxy, and I like to make the joke that the T series 1138s is what I kind of want to call them, but absolutely terrifying. I mean, just everything about them, the sound effects, they sound heavy, they sound,
the soundtrack
dangerous.
that accompanied them turning on. It's just this terrifying drum and bass out of nowhere, completely transporting you into a different vibe before it starts. They did a great job of upping the anxiety with the unique music that they had. And as we were saying, talking about all the references to Jedi Knight and Dark Forces, they even canonized the fact that there were 3 phases of Dark Forces.
That's right, yeah.
And that originally they were in suits, and then that they removed the human element, and phase 3 was droids.
That's right, yeah. The weakness.
Very close attention to the Dark Forces detail.
Yeah, it's insane. And you're right with the music. They chose that kind of techno sounding music, and the way the camera would start to pan up and then just jump up a little bit higher and jump up a little bit higher. And it had this feel to it that just built up the anticipation of them finally being animated and seeing all of them in their glory, the sounds of them walking, them beating down doors, and just the danger around them. Jay, man, you're a big Dark Forces guy. I mean, obviously we'd seen the Dark Troopers, I think twice already. He's teased, and then we saw him in the Tragedy episode.
13.
Yeah.
The Tragedy, yes.
Yeah.
Man, what'd you think of these?
I thought it was great, but I think to put a pause on it, I'd be very remiss to continue this conversation without referencing the fact that we've lost another one of the Star Wars crew.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. I
Jeremy
didn't have
Bullock,
that in my show notes.
Jeremy
You're right.
Bullock, the physical portrayal of Boba Fett, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, I think one of the Ewok movies, and also had a little cameo appearance in Empire Strikes Back as an Imperial officer, the officer that Lobot arrests.
The only Imperial officer to keep his mouth shut when captured.
That is exactly what I said, yeah. Also, as well, he had a little cameo as well in Revenge of the Sith as Captain Gemma Colton. He was piloting the ship that Kenobi, Bail Organa, and Yoda were on their way to Coruscant.
Oh,
the
really?
Alderaan cruiser, the Sundered Heart. He was the pilot on the Sundered Heart.
I guess I didn't realize that.
But we lost Jeremy after a few years battles with Parkinson's disease. Bless him. He's only 75.
Rest in peace. An absolute icon. The first man to wear Beskar on screen.
That's true.
Ever.
That's it, yeah. And the first cartoon or animated character to make the jump
At least he
to live screen.
At least he got to see the return of Boba Fett, and to see the and to see the fan base just like lose their minds at the fact that he's, even though it was somebody else playing it, just the fact that a character he helped bring to the screen was that beloved. You know what I'm saying? Jay,
even just the return, the realization. Of
that's it. Yeah,
that's right.
All of us here at the podcast extend our condolences to the fans, the families, especially the friends at this difficult time, specifically with the holiday season.
Yeah,
and a nod as well, a little nod and a little love to the other vets out there, Daniel Logan, Tamara Morrison. They're everywhere one went, the other two were there as well, and they were always together. Never saw one without the other two. They were
Honorable
always
mention
together.
to Jason Wingreen.
Honorable mention to Jason Wingreen. They were always together. I remember seeing them at Star Wars Celebration. Jeremy Bullock. I was only there for the one day, so I had to make difficult choices.
I love that the Fets stick together. They have such a bond, such a thing in common that's very special. That's
it, and you'll always see them. They're surrounded by the cosplayers, the Mandalorian cosplayers. You'll always see the Mandalorian mercs surrounding the guys. It's a family. You can see it's a family unit.
Daniel Logan is the only Fett that I managed to meet. Great guy. Met him at a con. Always wanted to meet Jeremy Bullock. That'll be on my list of regrets. Never got to meet Carrie Fisher either.
Yeah.
Well, I never got a chance to meet Jeremy face to face. I was only at the Star Wars convention for the one day. Part of that was a lot of waiting, for my main photo with Mark. So I had to make some difficult choices. But again, we were waving a hello when you passed the booths. My friend went up there and got an autograph. I didn't realize that he needed a ticket. And Jeremy was happy to oblige, regardless. 75, bless him. But yeah, moving back on to your question, Dark Forces. Growing up, younger, I didn't have a PC to game. I gamed on the N64, then the GameCube, then the Xbox. So my entry to the Kyle Katarn universe. Yeah, my entry to Kyle Katarn universe, man, was Jedi Outcast.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, you start off with your first-person shooter game, and it's great. Halfway through the game, you pull out a lightsaber. You go to the Masasi temples on Yavin and grab a lightsaber, which was great. As Kyle knows this as well. So, several months back, maybe earlier this year, could have even been last year, we were talking with the channel. Okay, well, what's next? Well, Dark Forces. I ain't played it. Play Dark Forces. So we go back, we have a little playthrough of Dark Forces, and I'm seeing another game that I loved growing up. I'm seeing Doom with a Star Wars skin slapped over it. And I'm like, only if this was on the N64.
Right.
oh, my life would be complete. So but even it's the era as well. This time period in Star Wars, 5 years, 6 years after Return of the Jedi, where a lot of the early novels started to be based around. You got the Jedi Academy series, which links in to which will either reference or they'll link into elements of other stories connected with the dark forces. This is just insane. And as you mentioned earlier, the fact that they not only canonized Dark Troopers, but canonized that this was the third phase. So we know there are at least 2 other phases of Dark Troopers now within canon. And
speaking specifically of Jedi Outcast, that secret lab on Navarro, they may as well have called it Kedjin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see moving forward. If this is what we got in one show, Kathleen Kennedy stated that The Mandalorian, the Rangers of the Republic, and the Ahsoka show will all end up having an interweaving storyline that has one big finale. So there's just nothing that can prepare me for that. Nothing that can prepare me for
these
that.
9 shows, they're going to have me on blood pressure medication by the time I'm done watching all this stuff.
Yeah,
I can't
that's right.
10 shows now.
This level of like anticipation and hype, like exactly like you're saying, the offerings that we got in just this one show, multiply that by 10. That's our next 3 years, plus movies, and then there's movies on top of that.
And then you got the Acolytes as well, set at the end of the High Republic era. Dark side users. Well, what can that be then? We know the main character is a female, but then what's the most sort?
There's a Chinese exclusive High Republic novel that's being marketed right now, and the text on the back of the dust jacket reveals that the High Republic era lasted until 50 years before the Phantom Menace.
Now, I was talking with some of your members on your Discord earlier this week. We were talking about, well, when does the High Republic end, and when does the prequel trilogy start? And we were saying it's got to, maybe between 100 to 100 years tops. So the fact that you said it's within 50 years, it's undoubtedly we're going to get Plagueis. We're going to get student Plagueis.
Because it's been described as a female-centric story with a female lead, I doubt the Acolyte himself is Sheev or anything crazy, but I do believe we're going to get some Plagueis, some sort of context, some sort of expansion of the tragedy, if you will.
Well, yeah. So, I know we've got the female lead. Now, I think the Acolyte itself is Plagueis. He's not going to be the main character. The main character is going to be this female-driven lead, but I think the title is referring to her. Padawan, Sith equivalent of a Padawan. He's the Acolyte.
It would be cool to have a show where you think the Acolyte is the main character, and then in the last episode it's revealed the Acolyte was Palpatine all along. That's a very Sheevy story.
Well, in this case, it wouldn't be Sheev, would it? It'd be Plagueis, Darth Plagueis. Unless they completely change the character to be a female Plagueis. But we've got to get Darth Plagueis the Wise in here somewhere. We're 50 years before episode 1. We need to see a Plagueis in here to set up episode 1.
So my canon understanding is that now we have the Old Republic, the High Republic, then the Republic, and then the Empire.
I'm not sure about the Old Republic.
I think so. Yeah, I haven't seen anything in canon so far that actually said Old Republic.
The only content so far with the Old Republic that's still ongoing is the video game. That's not considered canon.
Right.
The online.
Right, but elements of the non-canon video game do get adopted. Like
of course. Yeah. I mean,
I'm just wondering where how much overlap there is between this quasi-canon Old Republic universe and the High Republic. Like, is it going to replace it in places?
I don't know. We'll find out when we get there. I know originally the Old Republic stretches back thousands of years. And then 25,000 years before that, you got what came before the Old Republic, which was the start of the Jedi, the foundation of the Jedi Order on Tython. In canon now, it's Arc 2, isn't it? The first Jedi Temple's on Arc 2. But as to where we go with these timelines, and as to how, with these movies, as to how far these shows, I'm really interested to see exactly, if this is 50 years, great. that reaffirms to me that this show, Acolytes, we've got this female-driven lead. She is
Right.
the master, the mistress. She's the one that's going to be driving the story. And
I never
somewhere
watched
in the
Russian
show-
Doll, but I heard it was very, very good.
I watched one episode. I never really got into it, but I watched it late at night. So it's definitely something now I'm going to go
I
back
heard,
and check out again.
I heard the writing was really high quality, and the dialogue got a lot of praise. Which is we need good dialogue in our Star Wars. I'm still a little traumatized from things that have come before. We need great line delivery, and we need great lines to deliver. Please.
Yeah.
Well, I made the
Like the
I made the
infamous-
comment to Jay today.
No, carry on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I made the comment to Jay today after this episode of Mando, how and Jay, you were quick to jump on board. Absolutely, we basically can forget about 7, 8, and 9 at this point. I mean, with what's going on in Mando now and the quality of this and what we're getting in it, nobody's going to care about 7, 8, and 9 anymore. And I've seen a lot of people on Facebook today talking about how these 2 seasons of Mandalorian are kind of what we should have been getting originally for sequel trilogy or anything like that. And I was kind of wanting to see what if you still thought that after watching it however many times you've seen it now.
Well, yeah, I mean, like with the sequel trilogy, the same as any Star Wars movie, there's elements of those movies that I think are just breathtaking. I can watch each individual film objectively, separately, and say that was a good film. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that film. And I enjoyed that film. But when you look at them collectively as not, I don't tend to look at Star Wars as a trilogy anymore because it stopped becoming a trilogy in 1999. I look at it as an overall saga. Yes, we all use PT, OT, and ST just to make it just to clarify things with people.
Right.
But I try to look at it as the whole overall saga.
Absolutely, as well you should.
That's right. I think people who make a choice to bracket them down, to break them down, segregate them. But there are elements of the movies, right, which, okay, nothing's perfect, and I don't expect things to be perfect. And I'm watching these movies and think, this is great. I'll talk to people online about it. And then there'll be elements of the movie which I'm watching and I'm like, this just, at the moment, doesn't make any sense to me. You know, we're 5 years down the line and, from Force Awakens, and I'm still looking at it thinking, there's elements here that still don't make any sense. How long can I go defending these things to people when we just had the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian? If that could be delivered, which the fans have been saying since the buyout, put Filoni in charge, or put Filoni in a position where he can say, this is what we need to, these are the stories we need to tell. And then have Kathleen Kennedy, who, and I'm not bashing Kathleen Kennedy, look at her resume. Every film that's done anything in the cinema over the last 30 years has got her stamp on it. She worked with Spielberg through the 80s and the 90s. Jurassic Park, come on. Jurassic Park, Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List. She's had her name and her hand in a lot of these big movies. Her resume stands for itself. I would never bash Kathleen Kennedy. But this, she dropped the ball with. Just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you say you're going to be good at something else. And I think the task that she had was just not the right task for her. And I think Filoni, and a lot of the fans have been saying this for years, since the buyout, get Filoni to write the stories and then have your team make them. They're all there. You can go to Dave, he works, he's in the company. Dave, I want to go through this with you because I'm not sure how this is supposed to pan out. Okay, sure. We'll get a copy of this part of the story for the next movie. You can see how it correlates with this particular scene. Okay, Dave, I got it. Right, let's roll the camera. Let's make it work. And this is what we got with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni.
Yeah, no, this episode was insane. Yeah.
And I can't keep making defenses. All right, there are people who growing up who love the 7, 8, and 9. That is their Star Wars, and that's brilliant. I love it because years down the line, if they're talking about them, they're going to have perspectives that I'm not going to have, which is great to see. The first time I saw the Vader reveal, right, in the prequel trilogy, all right, from the perspective of another person, was a 13-year-old girl right, who watched the prequels growing up. She'd loved episode 1 growing up. She never got around to watching episode 2 and episode 3, but she finally sat and watched episode 2 and episode 3, and she almost passed out when Anakin bent the knee to Palpatine. And I was sat there as a man, probably at the time in his late 20s, looking at this exact moment and seeing the same parallel that everybody who was 10 years older than her had in Empire Strikes Back. And I couldn't believe it just blew my mind. This reaction that she had was no different to the reaction that anybody else had. Okay, me personally, my best friend gave me Return of the Jedi first. So at Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, saying, well, yeah, Darth Vader killed your father. I was like, well, hang on a minute. His father is Darth. What's going on here? I saw them all back to front, so it kind of wasted on me. But, you know, the point still stands. People had that impact with the movies back in the 80s or in the 90s if they caught it on reruns, re-releases, or even the special edition. And, you know, I'm not going to dismiss some girl who felt exactly the same way as I do when I watch Empire Strikes Back when she watches Revenge of the Sith.
Other people,
you know?
like anyone's fan experience and connection to the movie is 100%
That's
valid,
it.
no matter how different it is from yours. And I truly believe that a lot of the divide and issues that we as fans have, as older fans have with the sequels, it's generational. And that years from now, the sequels will be defended with the same fervor as I have been caught defending the prequels before. You know,
I've no doubt. I've no doubt about that. A friend of mine, Paul, we were talking about him earlier, we've said the same thing with regards to Last Jedi. Because back when Empire Strikes Back came out, you go and find reviews of Empire Strikes Back, not reviews from DVD releases. Go back and look at reviews that were printed in newspapers when it came out. Lukewarm reception. You know, 3 out of 5 stars. It didn't do nowhere near the money that the original Star Wars did. Critics were panning the movie. The fans loved it. Not all the fans, because not all the fans came back for it.
Right.
You know, but enough fans went and loved it that it could still be deemed an absolute blockbuster, which again changed the game. Sequels better than the originals. This is never really something that you would see. You know, aside from maybe The Godfather and The Godfather 2, you didn't usually see a sequel that just blew the original out of the water. Now, again, that is it's down to interpretation. If you prefer the original, A New Hope, that's perfectly fine by me. My personal favorite will always be Return of the Jedi. But, there are elements in the sequel trilogy that I know people can't stand, and I absolutely adore it. And Brian and I have this conversation all the time, and that's the death of Snoke. The death of Snoke is one of the best things that happens in the prequel. As I've said to people before, you look at Kylo, and he gets admonished by Snoke as being some unbalanced bum that got beaten by a girl who never even held a lightsaber. Andy Serkis, top delivery. Blasts,
oh my God, Andy Serkis is a god tier performer.
Yeah,
his motion capture is next to none.
Blasts Ben across the room, and the minute Ben wises up to what is going on, he gets focused. And what does he do? He takes him out. How does he take him out? Because he's a Skywalker. Let's go back to the Mandalorian, man. Never piss off a Skywalker. We saw what happened to Vader.
Yeah, never meet a Skywalker in a dark hallway. We've learned.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we saw exactly what happened to Vader when he started to get into Luke's feelings and mentioned the sister. What did Luke do? Luke ended him. It ended him in a blind rage, just went swinging wildly. We've seen what happened to Anakin. You know, at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Every bit the grace, the poise, and the purpose of the prequel fighters in that moment, in that episode. Like that was pure, unbridled Grandmaster Luke on display.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think it's phenomenal. And one thing to take away from Star Wars is never piss off a Skywalker. Even though his name's Ben Solo, some people seem to forget that he is Skywalker blood.
Absolutely.
And if you get on his bad side, and if he's focused on you, that's it. You're out. Game over.
I mean, he just has this deep wellspring of raw Force talent, just as Skywalker.
Yeah.
If you tap into that, it's over. It's game over.
And it was cool how he just like wiped out all these dark troopers and just walks in, and then he's right back to just them calm, cool, collected, like nothing happened.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
serene, solid and stoic.
Yes.
And when he takes off, I gotta slow myself down here, because this is the part in the podcast that I know that I'll start blubbering again.
Once we start talking about Luke, it's gonna become the Luke show, and there's a lot of crazy things that happened before he arrived. Also, that it's important not to get lost in the details.
Yeah, because I was telling Jay, I think before you jumped on, how everybody's focusing on the big Luke Skywalker reveal and this big finale, but there was so much more to this episode that built on some of the lore and really set some things up for season 3 that kind of got forgotten about because of the Luke Skywalker thing. And
it's perfectly understandable.
Yeah.
It's one of the largest of developments we've had in recent years in canon that people care about. But for example, that the TIEs launching out of the front of the Architens, just shooting down that thing felt very Battlestar Galactica, and that was not necessary. We didn't need to know, but it was such a tasty little morsel, and they just threw that in there for us.
I told Kirsty when that first TIE fighter launched out, when it goes to the first person point of view, how it shoots out, I leaned over and told Kirsty, that's what it feels like in Squadrons. Like, that's exactly what it feels like.
I'm pretty sure I said to Bendu in that moment, it's like, I need a gif of this to post next time I'm getting on the Discord saying I'm ready to play Squadrons.
That's it. Yeah, it was an amazing. Beautiful. It was an amazing visual.
Well,
and
let's talk about this dark saber for a second, because this is the subject that's not getting a whole lot of love amongst the fan base right now. It's getting some, but I want to make sure we give it a proper portion instead of 1/4 portion. We got to see when you see Mando and Gideon getting ready to go at it, and it didn't dawn on me until after Gideon said, "Now this should be interesting," and it cut away. That's when it dawned on me that what had just happened, what had just occurred, and kind of what we had to look forward to. And then when they walk onto the bridge and the look on Bo-Katan's face when she sees him holding it and that it's active, where do we go? I mean, is season 3 going to pick up at that moment?
She's
what's going on?
Livid.
She's pissed.
She's raging. It's what I said earlier. We've gotten accustomed to Bo-Katan being a hero character, but she's not. She's got her own agenda.
Yeah.
This goes back to episode 40 of the podcast when we were talking about Morgan Elspeth. And I said, well, judging by the artwork that she surrounds herself with, the buildings, the landscaping, the fact that the character and the actress is from an Eastern Asian ethnicity, it's very similar to the Ming Po from the planet Karlak from Clone Wars season 4, episode 14, which is set 20 years BBY, where Death Watch with Pre Vizsla, so Bo-Katan was there, went down and massacred the people. And Ahsoka states in that show that her civilization, her family, her planet was obliterated during the Clone War, and it fueled this woman's anger to make Imperial ships. She didn't state it was a Ming Po. That's yet to be determined. But that's, in my mind, until we're told otherwise, that's the kind of theory that I'm going down. We see more in Clone Wars when he beheads Pre Vizsla. Bo-Katan takes off. Nope, I'm not siding with no foreigner. She takes off. I think it's more to do with the fact that she knows she can't take them all out. She wants that power for herself. And their attitude, here's the one who's supposed to be uniting all Mandalorians together. She takes one look at Boba and just 3 times in a row just puts him down continuously. And I know, Kyle, we were talking earlier, you said something as well along the lines of about referencing the fact that he was a clone, and I'd like you to share your thoughts on that here as well.
I don't think that she necessarily was throwing shade at him for being Boba Fett. I believe she didn't recognize him until he started speaking, and it was the voice of the clone that she really took issue with, because Bo-Katan fought closely with the Jedi. She had several very good Jedi allies like Ahsoka Tano, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and she was present. She knows Order 66 happened. She knows that the clones are the ones that are responsible for murdering all the Jedi, and that's a stigma that you don't shake easily. So I see her bristling at the sound of this clone voice, much the same as Kanan and Jarrus in Rebels meeting Rex.
Yes, with the clones,
busting out the lightsaber, getting Ezra to safety. Like, we can't trust clones. Clones are murderers. And I see Bo-Katan just having that same stigma.
Yeah, I agree. It's very possible. It's a perfectly plausible explanation. We've seen all this go down. But I'm looking forward to see where they take Bo-Katan here, because, as you mentioned just now, she was livid. She had no love at all. And she seems to be the dividing factor in the Mandalorians instead of the fact that brings them together. So I'm really
It
looking
seems
forward
like they're
to seeing-
setting her up to be a problem. Yes.
They're going to really butt heads, butt Beskar buckets.
I'm wondering
in
if
the
it's
next season.
not a misdirection though. I think
Could
that
be.
Bo-Katan versus Din for the Darksaber feels like something that maybe they will resolve it fairly quickly at the start of next season. I really hope they resolve it like in an amicable way and not in a death kind of way.
Yeah. Maybe she's starting to see, maybe she's getting this idea of, maybe I don't need to do it the way I was going to do it. Maybe I can still salvage this and use Din Djarin to make this happen. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go at all.
There wasn't any character exposition from her after Din Djarin took off his helmet.
Yeah, there was
But
nothing
that
there.
that must have made an impact too, because the last time they really interacted, he was very much devout to the way of the Mandalore, and like was really not okay with them taking their helmets off. And now here he is taking his helmet off in front of everybody. Like Bo-Katan saw that happen too, so maybe she's starting to think, "Wow, this guy's growing and developing. Maybe he deserves the Darksaber."
Maybe. Well, I mean, it was a hell of an episode, and there was more than just the episode to talk about with the Mandalorian, because for the first time in Star Wars history, we got a mid-credit scene.
Yes.
They took a page out of Marvel's book and decided to, and honestly, I wouldn't even have known about this had Stephen Hall not told you and I, Jay, about it in the chat. Or, I mean, you saw it before anybody else did, but I wouldn't have known about this because usually I turn it off during the credits because I'm still reeling or I'm not paying attention because I'm just freaking out. This was a cool mid-credit scene. I mean, Jabba's palace. We watched Boba Fett dethrone a
fat,
It was
porcelain,
badass.
disgusting, greasy
Bib
twat.
Fortuna.
Bib
Yeah.
Fortuna. What a steak.
Quarantine was
He
not
let
kind to
himself
Bib
go.
Fortuna. Yeah, it was. He and yeah, did you see his nails? They were like 6 inches long. Like it's just God. And then when Boba
He was
walked
just
in,
living it up.
yeah, and Boba just shoots him, doesn't ask any questions, dethrones him, and then we finally got the announcement: the Book of Boba Fett coming Christmas of 2021. I'm assuming this is a Disney Plus series.
Yeah.
It's either like a standalone series, or it is the title of season 3, or it's a short film or something.
Well-
I think it's probably a standalone series. Is my guess.
I think it's a separate standalone season or series, because it would make 10. Because
They
wasn't
were
it
saying
9
there was
shows
10,
that they
yeah.
announced?
Yeah, this was the 10th one.
Kathleen Kennedy said that there was 10 new shows,
Yeah.
but she only announced 9. She announced 10
was-
shows, but one of them was Mandalorian. That's not a new show.
Yes, that's true.
But I mean, come on, man. Think of the possibilities, man. We now got The Godfather, of the
Yes.
Star Wars TV series. We've got The Underworld, Crimson Dawn, Black Sun. We could even see Nar Shaddaa.
This would be an excellent time to flesh out Crimson Dawn and see what became of them after Solo. But the Frank Frazetta, just Conan the Barbarian vibes of Boba Fett sitting on that throne with
Fennec
Fennec
sitting on the
Shand,
side,
like
drinking
draped over
Yeah.
the side with a flagon of
Bottle of
spotchka. Like,
Negative,
oh
wow.
man, I'm so here for it. I'm almost like more hyped for that than I was like seeing Luke was absolutely like the takeaway of the night.
Yes.
But like I think thinking about it all, I think I'm looking forward to the Book of Boba Fett more than anything else.
See,
Anything else.
that announcement at the end, I was like you said, I was coming off that high of Luke Skywalker making, the return of the king, and and then they announced another television show, and you're like, well, Jesus, like how many are we gonna get? This is you're still wearing off the high from the first announcement, from the investors call, and then you just tack this on the end of it. Absolutely off. And the fact that it's coming out next year concurrently with Mandalorian. So starting next year, because they said Mandalorian is coming Christmas of 2021, and this is coming.
I love the little
Christmas.
rancor sticking out the sides of the arms on the tray.
Yeah,
little
I
rancor,
saw
bronzium little statuettes.
Just the
I
little
think
details,
I think there's another element at play as well, which is why this was such a It was such a crazy experience for everybody last night, and I think we were all in a little bit of an emotionally vulnerable state after the news of Jeremy Bullock going into the episode. And the episode was so enthralling, that everything else around, including that news, fell away from me, and I was just watching the episode. But I was still in that state of I was always somewhat emotional when I pressed play. So, of course, it brought me to the brink. Seeing Luke, seeing R2, everything about it, yeah, it was unfortunate timing, but it really did add an extra layer to watching The Mandalorian last night.
The way I kind of look at it is, we know Jeremy Bullock is gone, Boba Fett's gone, but in a way, Boba Fett's still rising back to the power. Even though Jeremy is gone, we've still got Boba Fett. We're still going to be getting great stories from him. Jay, you're the reason I've got Jeremy Bullock's autograph on my wall out there. And he signed that picture.
Same here, actually.
He signed that picture. It says, "Brian, did I make it out of the Sarlacc pit?" And then he signed it Jeremy Bullock, and it's just to see that story unfolding now. Because remember last week we were talking about, is Boba even going to make it out of this season, and is Mando going to take the Slave One over? That's obviously out the window. That's not happening.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. Yeah, we were talking because I was.
Let's just say we parking Slave One in a much bigger garage these days.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. What was it? Episode 40. We were talking. This is before the announcement was made, and I was saying, well, look, this could be season 3 could be it for The Mandalorian, because we've got all these other shows rumored to be coming out. Never expected all these extra shows to run concurrently with it. I was like, okay, well, did they bring back Boba to give him a proper send off? Razor Crest is gone, so right. It stands to reason that you'd think Slave One would be inherited by Din. Nope. No, we got a Boba show coming. Oh, yes.
And I get,
bring it.
They know what
I get why they didn't announce it at the Disney investors call. I get it.
I appreciated them withholding that for the sake of the impact that it did have. Before I sat down and watched the episode, before I knew about the announcement or anything that was going to happen, I remember saying to Bendu, they better not kill off Boba Fett tonight after what just happened. It'll be
very
poorly
I
received.
Can't even,
so I'm very glad
that would have been the worst time.
I was very nervous. I was like, oh, that's not going to go down.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Well,
so glad it didn't happen. But that was
no
my
kidding.
concern moving into it.
Oh gosh.
From a story perspective as well, that's probably why they didn't announce the show. If they say, okay, by the way, we've got a Boba Fett show coming.
There goes the tension. Now we know he's safe.
That's it. He's sick. That's one character to look after.
And I hope it is the story of the Jabba's palace, but I hope we start with the Sarlacc.
Oh, yes, definitely. There's going to be.
We have to, right? We have to.
That's it. Yeah. Cobb Vanth come back. Have a Cobb Vanth cameo.
Yes.
But talking about character deaths, let's go revisit the girls, man. Girl power. Fennec Shand.
Oh yes, all-female strike force.
Yeah.
Do you know when
freaking Betty Badass is walking through the ship like it was nothing?
I was talking to Kyle on his Discord server. Could he be 24 hours ago, hours before The Mandalorian came out? We're all speculating, okay, is Cara Dune going to bow out in this episode? And I said, nah, no way, man. She's, it's not going to happen. But when her gun jammed and the music started to play, when the music tempo kicked up and she ran, but the weapon pointing and just swinging, I thought, that motherfucker was right. They're going to take out Cara Dune here. And, I love her sort of rebel, guerrilla, really sloppy way of trying to get a weapon to unjam. Just slam it on the ground until it works.
And we call that performing percussive maintenance.
Can you imagine if a bolt that just shot off in that elevator, just bounced around?
Can we talk about her interaction at the very beginning of the episode 2 with the Imperial shuttle pilot?
Yes.
When they
the Lando pilot scene was great.
When they first get on that shuttle, which, by the way, huge Return of the Jedi vibes in that shuttle cockpit.
Oh, yes.
Insanely just beautiful. It's just little things like that just stand out,
Those
that
neon
shot.
Cones. Those neon cones in the cockpit behind them, in the doorway.
Yeah, the user interfaces haven't changed a bit since the 80s.
At all.
I love it.
And is it just me, or did that cockpit look really spacious? Like maybe they were built for Wookiees when they designed them. I don't know. Maybe it kind of looked.
They had quite a lot of headroom.
They did
for a transport ship.
I mean, you go
but they
back.
needed a really big visor so we could have that gorgeous shot of Slave One just
Yeah. Oh,
right.
God.
Oh, just
that was
right, like a
so-
Leviathan
Oh, it was
from the
beautiful.
water. Like
It
a
was-
Leviathan just came up. And you saw Boba in the cockpit look at them
Yes.
as he was coming up.
So cool.
Yeah, that was an amazing shot. That was the first moment of the episode where my jaw just dropped.
We've
I-
got
I
to talk
did-
about
I
that
did-
conversation. We've got to talk about that conversation between Kara and that pilot.
I was
had
just
Dr.
about to
Man,
say,
he
I really
straight up
appreciate
sucked.
someone has finally in canon pointed out the immense loss of life that occurred on both Death Stars as
both
well as
sides
Alderaan.
too. Yeah, it's
It's
Yeah.
like the oldest joke. Everyone always talking, "Oh, I had friends on that Death Star," but like now it's canon. It's been said.
And she blasts him right in the
most
face.
brutal
Right in the face.
execution I've ever seen in Star. I mean, and I shouldn't say in Star Wars because there's been some brutal executions, but
Mm.
just
Did
most
he scream or was that
dispassionate-
Dr. Pershing screaming?
I think
watched
that was
it 3
Pershing.
times
It
and I
was
still couldn't tell.
Pershing.
He was
Because
missing
if
part
you-
of his ear.
If you
after
go
that,
back and
too.
watch the scene after that, Pershing's sitting there and they've put scorch marks over his ear.
Yeah, he's missing part
Oh,
of his
you're
ear
right.
too. Yeah, he was. It just, gosh.
Because
Mark.
when they leave the cockpit and the actual cockpit itself goes out of focus when they turn to leave, you see Pershing still, he's holding his ear. He's holding his ear and he's crippled over in agony. And then the next scene where he's sat there and he's basically spilling the beans, oh yeah, these are where all the dark troopers are kept and this is where Grogu was kept. If you look, when the camera pans onto Pershing when he's talking, you can see when he goes to sit, when he's sitting down, the one side of his ear, his right ear, is all black,
Yeah,
where the blast bolt seared the skin.
yeah. Oh God, amazing, dude. I just
Consistency.
And-
That was great.
Yep.
Continuity.
as tiny as it is too, the acting of that pilot, the guy that played that pilot, you could see the rage in his eyes. You could,
It's
I mean,
a great
you could
performance.
feel, yeah, it was an amazing performance. That for such a throwaway character to put out there, absolutely awesome. Yeah,
That actor gave a stellar performance. And I rewatched the episode. The third time I watched it with my girlfriend, and she said, "Why is he saying this stuff? He's just going to get himself shot. Like, what's the goal?" And it made me think about it. It's like, as far as he's concerned, like the New Republic are a bunch of murderers. Like, he thought as soon as they got boarded, like they're all dead because these people are killers
Yeah.
and they're just here to kill us. So I'm going to speak my piece before you kill me. Like,
That's it. It's exactly the same as what Mayfield said in the previous episode when referencing Mandalore and Alderaan, 2 planets with different ideologies. You grow up in one place, you believe one thing. You grow up in another place, you believe a different thing. As far as the locals were concerned on that planet, we're all invaders. None of us are here. Guess what? Neither Mandalore or Alderaan exist anymore. It's the same thing. These guys are probably born on a planet where the Empire, or formerly the Old Republic,
yeah,
was a big deal. He might be from a cold world. As far as he's concerned, the Empire is gold.
That is
They have
something
no
else,
idea what's happening right off.
That's something else very important too. That's the second little tidbit we've gotten. First, we got that Mandalore doesn't exist anymore, and now today we got it was turned to glass.
Hmm.
So these are two little hints about the fate of the actual physical planet itself, which we haven't seen. We don't know what happened to it, but now we know it doesn't exist as it was, and now we know it's been turned to glass. So it sounds like they did a big old base Delta Zero on the capital planet.
they pulled a terrace on it.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah,
everything.
We see Mandalorian in Rebels in season 3 of Rebels, where Sabine takes the dark saber and goes to Mandalore, and it's
Yes.
just a desolate wasteland. It's just
Right.
desolate, And they all live underground because they've just, maybe partly due to the Empire, but partly due to the fact that Mandalorians have been warring with each other for generations beforehand. Before the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that's why
before the
Concord Dawn
reunification.
is all fractured and shattered. You can't blame that on anyone but the Mandalorians.
That's it. It's just a desolate wasteland, and it just never grew back.
Salt of the earth.
Well, we don't know where we're going to end up with season 3 of Mandalorian. We don't know where we're going to end up going. We'll find out next Christmas. We have to wait a freaking year now. But I think once the wait's over, it's really going to start to kick off because, we get through this next year. We'll get the Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian, and then we're going to start getting Rangers of the New Republic and Ahsoka. And I think this will be the last time we have to wait for such a large gap for anything to watch Star Wars. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it goes. So
One of the rites of passage of being a Star Wars fan is the wait, and the speculation is like one of the best parts of it.
God,
And we have 10 shows to speculate about now for the next
God,
year.
they're going to be coming so rapid fire
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
We're not going to be getting bored, even
No.
though we got a long wait. We got plenty to think about.
absolutely. We got
Yeah.
plenty of novels coming out, plenty of comics, and just everything to keep us occupied until then. So
Yeah. That's it, yeah. I mean, it's been 1998, right, when Rogue Squadron came out on the N64, and since then I've been waiting for new Luke Skywalker content on screen.
and we get
Since
helmet. And
1998.
that's something else too. I wanted
No.
to talk about. I'm glad you brought that up.
22 years.
That this episode opens up an entire new box of opportunities. Because
Yes.
I mean, I've seen people already complaining about the CGI on Luke's face and all this stuff. Who gives a crap? I mean, who cares about the CGI on his face? The fact that they did it is what's important. It's going to be a lose-lose. I mean, it doesn't matter how good it is. People are going to be like, well, obviously it's not him. I mean, in my opinion, it looked better than Leia and Tarkin in Rogue One. I think it looked a lot
Yeah.
better than
I would
that.
agree with that.
But
I couldn't
I think-
comprehend exactly what I was looking at. I was like,
Yeah.
I thought I was looking at Sebastian Stan with CGI, and then
Yeah.
I was like, or was it makeup, or was it a deep fake?
yeah.
I couldn't figure it, but I didn't bother trying.
Yeah,
I was
no,
just
it's-
I was inside that moment.
The-
And
the
although
fact
it looked
that
a little
we're-
awkward on like
Yeah.
a third rewatch, at the time it was absolutely perfect,
But-
and I was
yeah, but-
enthralled.
But I think part of what sells it is if this was Empire Strikes Back, Luke, it never would have worked. This only works because Return of the Jedi, Luke. Put yourself back when you see Return of the Jedi. What does Luke do at the very beginning? He walks into Jabba's palace. He's very ice stone cold.
It was the
There's no
exact same
emotion.
character intro. Yeah,
That's it. You know, even when he's talking to the Emperor before the Emperor gets to him, you know, the corridor on Endor when he meets up
Yes.
with Vader. I know, Father. There's like no emotion in his voice. So you've accepted the truth. I've accepted the truth of your words, Anakin Skywalker, my father. There's no emotion to it. He's reached that level. He can't contain it, as we see in the finale of Return
it
of the
also
Jedi.
reminds me of Neo in the Matrix.
yeah,
Yeah.
the way
when
he's
he
just
says,
kind of like,
"No,
I know, I
no,"
already know
and then
everything.
just-
Like,
and then puts
I
down
am the
all-
one. Yeah.
All the bullets.
and when he says, "Are you a Jedi?" I am. You know, it's just
That's it.
simple.
It's-
You know, he doesn't
it's-
even say his name. Like he doesn't say no.
If he
I
had
am,
said, "I'm Luke
Skywalker."
Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you," I would
I
have
would-
fucking laughed.
It's only when
You're who?
It's only when he looks down and then looks up and turns his head to the side. That's when you can really see like the CG. But I was talking to, I think I must have spoken to about 80 to 90 people today on Twitter, all saying the same thing. Oh, it was great, it was great, it was great. But, and then they put a button, and then I saw somebody say that this episode was, they give it full marks, right? 100 out of 100. And then in the next sentence they said, it's not perfect, but, and I responded, I said, well, look, did you enjoy the show? Yes. I said, so why are you trying to
That's all that
critique
matters,
and
yeah.
downgrade your own enjoyment? If you enjoy it, be happy in the fact you enjoy it. Celebrate that you enjoy it. Don't put your own enjoyment down just because it's a fashionable thing to do. You know? Do you think people had the same conversations when they saw stop motion AT-AT and Hoth? Look at that. You see that thing blow up? You had these massive, great big chunks.
That's something I wish they would still implement into Star Wars. Believe it or not, as corny as that sounds,
Stop motion.
Stop motion.
the stop
They
motion.
have.
Well,
They
no,
have-
no,
they
what
have
I mean-
film
the
tickets, the scrap junkers I shared.
Right.
tweets,
Well, what I mean
yesterday.
is-
from Mayfeld's prison scene, you mean?
Yeah,
In the scrapyard.
that's it.
Yes,
Yeah.
in the background, they were stop
That's it.
motion. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like even in Rogue One, when we saw the ACTs on Scarif, I mean, I get why they did CG. It's way cheaper and way easier. I get it, but
But it didn't feel
something-
the same.
Yeah, had they done? Can you imagine watching that and seeing stop motion walkers again? And I mean, granted, the stop motion nowadays is they've perfected it to the at this point to the point
Oh
that
yeah.
we're using.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
but can you imagine?
So
I would say my
seeing
favorite
that?
my favorite element of stop motion in the sequels is when they fire up the Dejarik board.
Yes.
They
Yes.
still did
little callback.
claymation Dejarik pieces and then
Yeah.
made them see through with CGI, but that was actual stop motion, and I really appreciate it. It's a tiny detail,
It is.
But
but it
it's-
definitely
that's-
made it feel
yeah.
more lived in. It made it feel like this is really that table, not just some CGI recreation of it.
But see, with them bringing Luke into this now, because remember we talked about earlier, we thought Luke Skywalker was the name that was too big to pop up in this.
Right.
At least now,
they
yeah.
did it, and so this opens a can of worms now for where they could go in the future. Are we going to get more Luke Skywalker storytelling? Because think about it, there's not a lot there of what Luke was up to between 6 and 7.
Battlefront.
There's a couple
Battlefront
of
2 is what we got.
yeah, there's a couple of little nuggets. We know the
Heir to the
gist
Jedi
of it.
also.
Oh,
Yeah.
did Jay tell you to bring
but
that up?
After,
Did Jay tell
after
you to bring
Return
that
of the
novel
Jedi,
up?
We were talking after post Return of the Jedi, because Age of the Jedi was after.
You're right. You're right.
It's
Return
all
of the Jedi was
all
earlier.
him trying to move that noodle in the soup,
Leading
into.
Luke is MIA during Bloodlines.
Yeah, he's MIA from the last time you see Luke in canon up until now is Battlefront 2 campaign, where he has that amazing
on
moment with Del. That amazing moment with Del, which says, I offer a choice. What, the rebellion? No, to be something better. Oh my God, that's Luke.
I'm really glad that you brought up that Pileo scene, because that performance of Luke, which shout out to Matt Mercer, by the way, is absolutely the same embodiment that we saw in The Mandalorian last night and in Return of the Jedi. What you're talking about, that stoicism, just shut off, no emotion, I am a Jedi like my father before me. End of story.
Okay, well, his appearance in the Battlefront 2 campaign is before this. Is before Mandalorian. So
right, but I'm just saying that it's consistent with
That's it.
The appearance before it and the appearance after it, which is Return of the Jedi and Mandalorian.
And you got to remember,
very much the same Luke.
I remember seeing somebody say his haircut was wrong in this. It's been 5 years. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's been 5 years.
Sure he's had it
gonna
trimmed.
change it.
That's it.
It's just people.
As you said, it's 5 years later. It's neatly cropped in. It's no different to, you look at episode 2, right? Episode 2, and then episode 3. You look at Obi-Wan's hair. The difference in his hair there. Yeah. It's gone from Jedi mullet to cropped, side parted, more in line with Alec Guinness.
Jedi mullet is the best.
Even when he's a ghost, his hairstyle changed every episode.
But it's I thought that I thought it looked great. I
thought it did too.
As soon as that X-wing came in and they said, "Oh, one X-wing," I thought at first we're looking at Carson Teva coming in. I thought, they're dropping more nuggets.
I thought Trapper Wolf.
I thought more nuggets to the Rangers of the Republic. I was saying earlier when I tweeted Paul recently just to say, thought you're amazing in Mandalorian, and he followed me straight back. So he must have been online when I tweeted him. And I've been watching King Convenience with me and my wife. We're watching this show, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And as soon as I saw that X-ray, he was the first thing that popped into my mind, because I've been watching his material, quite a lot this week. And even when Cara Dune referenced the one X-wing, there we are. That's it. We're saved. It never popped for me. But as soon as we got that close up on the black and white monitor, as soon as that X-wing pulled in, I knew instantly, fuck, that's Red 5.
Yes,
same. Not that I could see any markings.
It's just something about that X-wing stands out. Yeah, there's just something about that particular X-wing that
I couldn't see the markings on it because it was a black and white monitor, and I think that's why so we couldn't see any markings on it. At least I couldn't. Maybe if I sat closer to the TV, and then it cuts to Grogu, who's just chilling, and his ears perk up. And what we were saying earlier, you hear the noise of the Force, which George brought into the to the saga for the prequels.
And the instant before, you have that realization of that's Red 5.
And I just lost it. I lost it. The same as a lot of people I've seen online. I just absolutely lost it. And then when they cut and the music just hyped up, almost all dialogue stopped. Almost all dialogue.
My eyes got so wide just throughout the next 3 scenes that I thought my eyes were just going to fall out of my head. But right before you realized that it was Red 5, when Cara Dune's like, "Oh, great, one X-wing, we're saved," I thought that was going to be the moment that then 10 more X-wings, and then a Nebula, the New Republic's here. I thought we were going to get the fleet moment for a second.
That's it. I was expecting to see more of the characters that I was expecting to see maybe in Rangers of the Republic. Maybe with that particular show, we get to see the Republic fleet and the Republic army. We get to see all the people that will eventually go forward into this combined finale.
And the Mandalorian ends with a backdoor pilot for another show.
That's it. Yeah, just dropping more nuggets. Look, these are the people that you will be seeing. And then we got that little image of a cloaked figure just walking up the corridor. I just couldn't stop. It was just everything that I wanted to see. And then he pulls out the saber. Let me just compose myself a second. He pulls out his saber and he starts swinging.
You could tell from the hilt because they made it a point to zoom in on that hilt too.
The hilt was absolute confirmation for me, but the shade of green, I was like, "There's no one else it could possibly be." Seeing the hilt was basically seeing his face.
That's it.
And am I the only
watching-
one that thinks Mando should have given Grogu the little ball from the?
Do you know?
Oh,
I
you're
thought.
right.
I
Oh,
thought.
man.
I thought when Luke got in that,
Just
elevator,
twist that knife.
Yeah.
and I thought I was hoping that. Yeah, he takes the ball out and then Grogu pulls
as
it
Luke's
towards him.
walking away and you see him looking back, he holds it up and Grogu holds a hand up and uses the Force to pull it to himself.
But you know what?
That would have been a great moment.
That
The
would have
next
been awesome.
the next time you see Grogu and Din Djarin reunite, you know the first thing that's going to happen? It's going to be like the Force Awakens lightsaber in the snow. All of a sudden, you're there watching Din Djarin and this ball comes flying out of his pocket. And then it cut to the other
It's
side
gonna
of
be
the screen
great.
and there's Grogu holding it.
That's gonna be great.
So at this current time, Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, excuse me, is born, and he's how old?
Okay, so he's born at this point. He would be
Single digits. Yeah, he's less than 10 years old.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's see. He was born at the end of Aftermath Empire's End. That's 5 ABY. Mandalorian.
We're
is
currently at 9 ABY.
9. So Ben Solo would be 4 years old at this point.
Okay, he's
Yeah.
4 years
Not-
old.
Are we 9 ABY? I thought we were just after Jakku.
No, we're ABY at this point. Are you talking about
We're
for
4 years
Mandalorian?
after Jakku. We're 9 ABY at this point.
Yeah.
Are we 9 ABY?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, okay.
So yeah, that he would be 4 years old at this point.
Gotcha.
So
I wonder if there'll be a
actually,
time jump for season 3 so that we could see Grogu hanging out with like Finn Wolfhard or someone as Ben
that
Solo.
would be nice.
Yeah, possibly. I can't see why they wouldn't. Because that, as I say, is a puppet. So you can get away with aging it.
What if it
Din
turns out that
Djarin's-
Ben Solo turned to the dark side because Grogu, his classmate, kept stealing his macaroons and bullying the shit out of
do you
him
know-
all the time? Like he was a horrible bully, and he turned Kylo evil.
You see, this is the type of thing that feeds into the movies. If Grogu is still in the Jedi Temple when that temple got burnt, that feeds into the anger that you feel for Kylo. So I'm not. Hopefully Grogu's not there. You know, I wouldn't wish that on little Grogu. But if Grogu's still at that temple when Ben turns, and he dies at that temple with the rest of the students, that's going to feed into how you view Kylo Ren.
It's true. That would make it way more effective. But I don't think Grogu's going to die. I think Dave Filoni's going to send Grogu off to the farm where he's going to send Ahsoka, where Jedi can live forever. He never has to kill her.
Yeah, it's very possible. But that being said, season 1 finale, we watched Grogu get punched in the face 3 times. So
That's
it's
true.
not outside
That's
the realm
true.
of possibility.
Oh, I forgot
You know,
about that.
it's-
And that
It's
and
not
that
outside the realm
instantly.
of possibility that Favreau and Filoni would pull something like that.
I like how Rey in Last Jedi was like, Vader was the most hated man in the galaxy, and then you see the stormtrooper come along and beat
Not
the
anymore,
crap out
right?
of Grogu, and you're like, nope, that guy.
But let's just say, right, that you're right. Season 3 is a time jump, right? And then we do get to see maybe season 3, Grogu make a reappearance towards the end. Let's say he's talking. Are we going to get Frank Oz back and then modulate his voice to make it sound younger?
That'd be awesome. Oh God,
Frank
that'd
Oz would be
awesome.
amazing. And
Yeah.
if an alternative
Just-
was
just
necessary,
modulate
Tom
the
Kane
frequency.
can do more than I.
Yes, Tom
Yeah,
Kane is damn good.
just modulate the frequency so it sounds, the pitch of the voice, so it sounds like something that you'd expect it to sound from a young 50-year-old species of that kind. That would be a nice little icing on the cake for me, because it wouldn't matter who voices Grogu, because Grogu hasn't spoken a word on camera yet, so it wouldn't make any difference to me who voiced Grogu. But it would be a nice little nugget for me to think that Frank Oz gets a final, or maybe not a final, but Frank Oz still gets that little bit of word from Lucasfilm. Yeah, go on, voice this other Yoda character. Go on, have another go. And then just modulate the frequency to make it sound like he's a lot younger.
I think it's totally doable. Speaking of bringing in other characters and trying to revitalize them in different ways, I'm going to go ahead and throw a prediction out there, put it on record here on the podcast.
Oh, bring it on.
Go on, we'll do that. Hang on, let me get a pen and paper together. Because
Here we go.
I
I've done it. I've done it now.
I think moving forward, not necessarily child to child, but I think moving forward, it would be nice to just keep a record of predictions, and then we can revisit them at a later date. Not necessarily on a podcast, we can do it privately, behind the scenes, or even on a podcast, we can say, right then, who got this one right, who got this one wrong. So, go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
It's very likely this won't happen, but I just want the podcast receipts in case it does. The Rangers of the New Republic is going to feature an amalgamation of New Republic era characters that we've seen, maybe some book people, maybe some game people. They'll be in this live action show.
Right.
I'm thinking the likes of like V Maradi, like
Shriv.
but
Uncle
Shriv is
Yes.
But my
Where is
prediction, oh no, I just said too many names because now no, I just remembered. Okay, but my prediction is that the Rangers of the New Republic they're going to be pilots, New Republic pilots.
Mhm.
They're going to have like a watch commander, a guy who's not in a cockpit, but they report to him every couple of. And it's going to be like New Republic officer Commander Callus. Because Callus would absolutely be career military.
Yes.
Once the New Republic is established, he's definitely in there in some office job.
Yeah.
Like we'll get
Would
him
you-
as a live action character.
Yeah, Harris
Brian,
and
do
Dula.
you, Brian,
be
do you
another one.
remember back before Rebels ended? We were talking that we don't know if Agent Callus, if the Callus is just a code name or if that's his real name. And we were talking, shit, what if this is Crix Medine?
Yeah, because that was never
Remember
answered.
that?
Yeah, that was
Because
never
that would be
answered.
very dark.
I was convinced that Callus was Medine. I think you take off his mutton chops, it's the same color hair.
Yeah,
You know,
he could.
What
he
if
could pull
Callus
it
is
off.
just nothing more than a code name? We know he's an agent, so it's not a
Crix
far
Medine,
stretch to
yeah.
think.
The
It's not a
voice
far
was
stretch
similar.
to say.
The voice was
Yeah.
similar. Yeah, I mean, you could. I don't want to say retcon, but you could. I guess that's the only word I could think of. I mean, you could build on that, and actually, I guess retcon's the only word I can think of. You could retcon
That would
the
be. I think
character
that
and
would
make it
technically
him.
be a retcon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that moment has passed now. But at the time, when it was on TV, you know, I thought, well, it's not a far stretch to think that that's a false name. We know he's an agent. His first name's not going to be on his birth certificate, agent. So I thought, that's a code name. We're going to see it. That's Crix Medine.
Yeah.
And then he turns out to be the Fulcrum. Oh, Marona. Hey, that was it for me. Oh, as soon as he said, "Oh, I'm Fulcrum," I was like, "Yeah, man, where my money, Brian, pay up this Medine." Oh, no, it's not Medine. No, keep that quiet then.
I will say this about Crix Medine. Man had the best fake beard in
He
all of
did.
Star Wars.
He did. Yeah,
They weren't quite confident in their Admiral Akbar design, and so they
Nah, I
filmed
thought-
a backup sequence with Medine
Yeah.
in that chair. And my God, the beard when it's in close up, it's really something to behold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Jay. I read about that recently. That Akbar was deemed too ugly for Star Wars TV, Star Wars
that's
for
sad.
children at the time.
He has
Was
feelings
it,
too.
I think it might have been Kyle that shared the link somewhere. Might have been in your Discord or on Twitter. But I read
That does
somewhere,
sound like something that I would have talked about.
we're talking days ago, that Akbar was deemed too ugly for children, which before the film's release. It's crazy
Always
to think
hurts to
that.
hear
Now.
that one, man.
I mean, come on. How many people, hand on heart, who laughed when they saw the Mon Calamari in the fisherman sweater?
The J.C. Penney
Considering
sweater.
I have
Yeah,
that same sweater, I
J.C.
love
Penney
it.
is now Star Wars
Yeah.
canon. Yeah, it
You know,
is. The J.C. Penney winter catalog 1995 is officially canon. I'm gonna have to add it to the.
Do you
canon
guys
show.
know Chris Stevens Creations?
Christine's good to know.
So he has a Facebook store, and I think he has an Etsy store. He's a mask maker, and he creates custom alien masks, and they're
Yeah.
all like mind
I've seen
blowing
them.
quality.
That's
He makes Mon Cals, and you can wear them, you can see out of them, you can move
Oh,
them
nice.
out, and they're photoreal quality. And I really want
Yeah.
to get one of his Mon Cals and then wear
Yeah.
the sweater and get some white overalls and go to the next con as judgy Mon Cal dock
Nice.
worker. I think that would be great.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I haven't seen the page upload anything recently, but yeah, maybe it's something to do with the algorithm of Facebook has changed. But I used to see that all the time. There's loads of things. There's all these different latex face masks. Some of them are padded to stop them from folding in on themselves. With the cheeks folding in.
I make sure to always like his photos so that they stay in my newsfeed algorithm. But yeah, he made an Ithorian the other day that it's got the full arch to the neck, but it supports its own weight. That's great.
Wow.
Great stuff.
Oh, love an good old fashioned hammerhead. loving it. Yeah, they come with the throat slits as well.
Oh yeah, it was the full from the shoulders up to the top. You had the full side, the side for the sonic attack. I really enjoyed Boba's line, by the way, of "I never said I was a Mandalorian."
Yeah.
Hot on the heels of Django's chain code and the Foundling story. It's like they're really giving us all of it.
Yeah, I don't think it's like what he says. In the episode where they come face to face, Din and Boba, and he says, "Are you a Mandalorian?" I swear my allegiance to no man. He don't care. All he cares about is his father's armor. That's it. Don't care about anybody else.
He cares about honoring his father, but he does that in his way. He doesn't do it in his father's way.
That's it. Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love the fact that they tried to keep Boba on that. But I mean, I'm not against Boba joining the rest of taking the creed. I'm not against that at all. But I'd like to see, personally, I'd like to see more of Boba being Boba before we get to that stage.
Well,
the Boba that
this particular conversation is knocking on the door of one of our mailbag questions. So what do you guys say we get into those?
Can we talk about R2 first? We haven't mentioned R2 yet.
Oh yeah, we do need to show R2 some love, considering he did
favorite Swiss Army
trilogy. Yeah,
there, we've mentioned R2. Bless him.
All right, guys, let's get into some mailbag questions. If you guys want to get a question on the Star Wars Canon Podcast, there's more than a few ways you can do that. You can email it to us at starwarscanonpodcast@gmail.com. If you're a member of our Discord server, there's now a channel on there. You can drop in your mailbag questions. We'll go through there and pick out a few. You can send messages on Anchor, a voice message that you can actually send. Hear your voice on the podcast. We'll throw you on that way. But the most prominent way right now is the email address. And we've got quite a few lined up for this week. We didn't do any mailbag last week because of the news dump from the Disney investors call. So we didn't, and like I said, it was a 3-hour show. We'd done mailbag questions that had been 4.5. So we decided this week we were going to do a lot of mailbag questions for you guys. And yeah, I might push us over the 2-hour mark, but who cares? Let's talk some Star Wars on a Friday night. Is it Friday? Yeah, Friday night. Let's have some fun.
No, it's 3:00 Saturday morning.
For you, it's Saturday. Yeah. So that's dedication right there, man. He stays up so we can do this. Question number 1 this week comes from Kyler Knowles, and Kyler says, "I was just rewatching season 7 of Clone Wars and got to thinking about a what if scenario. That what if scenario is, what if Ahsoka told the council about Maul's vision? Do you guys think that the outcome of episode 3 would have been different, or do you think that what Anakin was going to do was already set in stone?"
Mm-hmm. Okay. Who wants to go first? Kyle, do you want to go first since you're the guest?
Sure. Personally, I think that the narrow views of the Jedi would have blinded them to pretty much any warning at this point, even direct testimony from Maul. I think their fate was pretty much sealed long before the Siege of Mandalore, and that's really part of the brilliance of Palpatine's plot, is that he didn't just attack them from outside; he allowed them to decay from within. And I think they were too clouded by the time that Maul told Ahsoka. They were too clouded to be able to hear it from her.
I think they were too arrogant at that point, because even Mace made the comment to Ahsoka.
That's a great word to use, arrogant.
I think he made the comment to Ahsoka. He's like, that information is for the Jedi civilian, you know. And he wouldn't even
pushes it out.
Wouldn't even take her seriously. And then if she were to bring along Maul, a former Dark Lord of the Sith, and why are we going to listen to this guy? He's our mortal enemy. Why would we listen to anything he has to say?
I think
because some citizen vouches for him.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
That's it. Yeah, I think the last vestige of any sort of hope for the Jedi died with Qui-Gon, which is why it's called the Duel of the Fate. It's the fate of this kid's life, Anakin. As soon as Qui-Gon was gone out, and you can get an answer direct from Dave Filoni to this question by watching Star Wars Galaxies.
Right.
I can't recall which episode, but they're about 30 minutes each. It might be, I think it may be episode 6 or 7. And Dave sits there and just tells the entire directing team, this is the point of no return. It's not the fate of this man's life, or just because of this and that, what the music is called. It is the fate of the entire galaxy, and this boy's life rests on this fight. And the minute that Qui-Gon got struck down, that was it. The decision, that's it. The die was cast. His fate was sealed. There was nothing that anybody could have done at that point.
At that point, the damage had been done with the council too.
Exactly.
Because he had already lost his trust in them. Yeah.
That's it. Because Obi-Wan used to keep saying, "No, please don't go against the council again. You'd be on there by now. You've attained the rank of master, and you'd be on there by now." But Qui-Gon was always pushing back at the council, which is why they never. Remember the scene in episode 1 where Ewan McGregor is telling Liam Neeson, look, chill out a bit, let the council do it their way, you'll be part of the council. And yeah, that fate was sealed. That die was cast as soon as that red blade pierced straight through Qui-Gon.
See, and I feel like Palpatine had this plan, right, to get Anakin as his apprentice in the long run, and he played the long game. But I think had they caught it, I want to be careful saying this. I think had they caught it before Dooku's death, I think they could have stopped it. But maybe. I think the second Anakin killed Dooku and gave into that, and Palpatine really started working on him at that point, I think that was. I think there was no turning back at that point. Or it was either that or the moment Padme says to Anakin, maybe Obi-Wan could help us, and he sits there for a second and says, no, we don't need him. That was the decision.
I think the only way, taking into consideration everything that happened from episode 1 up to that point in the story, I think the only way that they could have gone slightly in a different direction is if the council wasn't scattered all over the galaxy. If the council were all together in the council chambers with Anakin, with Ahsoka, and with Maul, there might have been a different outcome, but they weren't. It's part of Palpatine's plan with the Clone Wars. Scatter them so they can't reinforce each other. So when Order 66 kicks in, they're all isolated, surrounded by thousands of clones. And that is the only thing that I can think of off the top of my head without going back through the whole history. That's the only point that I can think of if there was ever any opportunity to go another direction, that all the masses would have had to have been together.
There's something else we got to take into account too. Maul was terrified of Sidious.
Petrified.
He was the one. Yeah. He was the one being that Maul begged for mercy from. And
when Saber got killed,
yes, and even
when
Ahsoka,
no
even when he loses to Ahsoka in season 7. And he's screaming, no, just kill me now.
Because he doesn't want to go back. He doesn't want to go back to anywhere near.
You take that into consideration.
Because he knows if Palpatine gets hold of him, because this is after the Son of Dathomir comics, if Palpatine gets hold of him, it's over for him.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite moment of the entire Clone Wars. You're all going to burn.
Yeah.
We're all going to die.
Yeah.
And when he said that, every single hair on my arms, my back, my neck went up on end. I've never seen more. We seem more scared when he fights Sidious.
Such a good vocal performance from Sam Witwer.
Oh, yeah.
Second only to the Kenobi scream, I think.
I was about to say, have you seen the behind the scenes on the Twin Sons? You can watch a 20-second YouTube video behind the scenes, and it's Witwer standing in the mic of Kenobi. He takes a step back, takes a deep breath, and comes right back into the mic and screams, Kenobi! Oh my God, he's got his
You can see Darth Maul in his face when he does that.
Yeah.
Like he really does embody the character.
Yeah. But going back to your comment though about
had they brought Maul to the council like that, if he was scared, I mean, even the council would have looked at Maul like this guy's terrified of something. There's something this guy is scared of.
Yeah, but at the same time, fear is one of the paths to the dark side. So they could have sensed that fear, like they sensed it with Anakin back in episode 1, and had the doubt. Because remember when Mace was testing Anakin with that little hologram pad, like that little iPad with all the, he's got a ship, a speeder, the Peter Venkman test on the beginning of Ghostbusters 1, when he's testing with those couple of wavy lines, that electro test. He's doing that with Anakin.
I love you throw the Ghostbusters reference in there.
And he senses the fear.
Yes.
And Anakin says, fear is the path to the dark side. Be mindful of your fears. And he looks at Mace Windu. Mace Windu doesn't give a shit. He's like, bin him. Who cares about it? Just bin him. He's like, get him out. But even if that was the case, even if Maul did get there and they sensed his fear, I think they still would have taken a dim view. And I think
you've got to think about everything going on at the same time too, because they're in that same time period. Mace Windu tells the council while they're standing around that battle battle table, how he says the dark side of the Force surrounds the Chancellor. Had they brought Maul in there, and Maul would have told him, "No, look, it's the Chancellor. He's the Sith Lord." It would have confirmed a lot of stuff that Mace had already been feeling. So
it would have corroborated a previous suspicion.
Yes.
That's true.
So there's a large picture you've got to take into consideration with this, because events unfolded so quickly during that time when everything started to go down, that you got to remember everything that was going on at the same time. And there was so much, because at that point the council had already asked Anakin to spy on the Chancellor, so his trust in them was shaken. You already had Palpatine telling Anakin the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise and getting under his skin that way, and You already had Anakin having the nightmares, and it's
And they had Obi-Wan
yeah.
break that news of the mission to Anakin.
I
He
don't
said,
know.
"You're asking me to spy on him?" He goes,
Yeah.
"The council's asking you to spy on him."
I don't
They
know
still
if it
used
would have been
Obi-Wan to
different.
deliver the message. You know, and it's like, oh, really?
I think it was set in stone. I really do. I think it was going to happen
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. I
Definitely.
think it was unavoidable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Kyler, I hope that answers your question, man. Let us know what you think, man. I want to send us an email. Let us know kind of your opinion. You didn't really drop it in the mailbag question. I'm kind of curious, man. Thanks for sending it in, though, man. We do appreciate it.
Check it on the Discord, Kyler. We can all have a chat about it.
Yeah, man. Actually, Kyler just joined the Discord too. So, yeah, man, drop that in there. We'll talk about it. Yeah. Question number 2 this week comes from the Hermitcraft. He is one of our Patreon supporters. Thank you very much, Hermitcraft, for being a supporter. He's also the first guy to boost the Discord server for us. Got us to level 1. So awesome. Thank you, man. Hermitcraft writes in and says, "Hello, now that you have a few co-hosts, I was wondering if you guys could discuss your 5 favorite canon novels. Keep up the good work and stay safe." Jay?
5 favorite canon novels. Lost Stars.
Yeah, I think that's going to be number 1 for
by
everybody.
a mile.
Yeah.
By an absolute mile.
That's an easy answer. That's on my list also.
Yeah,
you may as well just call this Claudia Gray and Company. Lost Stars, Bloodlines, Master and Apprentice, the Leia novel. What's the 5th one? Lords of the Sith.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, easy by a country mile. I mean, the first... I know a lot of people didn't like the first Aftermath novel, and I get why. I did read that Chuck wrote that within 30 days. I don't know if that's true. I've asked him, but it's not really something he can tell me. And it's not something I've been able to verify. But if you look at Chuck's other work, it's completely different. Even the second Aftermath novel and the third, completely different to the first one. But I still like the first one. It didn't read as a novel. It read as these are chapters of little things going on around the galaxy to set the sort of tone of where we are now. The beginning, pulling down Palpatine's statue, the celebration from Return of the Jedi, meeting Kemen, Snaps Wexley, Mr. Bones, going to another part of the galaxy, meeting other people. I did like that. I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I got to give an honorable mention to that.
I actually included Aftermath by Chuck Wendig on my list as well, because although it's not my favorite style of writing, I do also love the inclusion of Cobb Vanth and the little epilogue he gave for Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, yeah. Those
as you're saying,
chapters
all these little
awesome.
moments that just sort of set the tone for where we are now.
That's it. And the second book, Aftermath 2, which this was obviously after The Force Awakens came out, made $2 billion, boom, set some records across the world, for certain in terms of ticket sales and the speed. At the time, Brian and I were talking. Dennis Lawson used to have a TV show here in the UK, and he was the main player. He was a detective, so he had something good going for him here in the UK, and that's and he refused to come back for The Force Awakens. He'd seen, wow, this thing, whether or not he likes the story is irrelevant. This thing's made bank. I'm back on, but I want a job. Remember, because I said when we was watching the panels for the next celebration, I said, "Oh look, there's Dennis Lawson. You've come back for a job." And I said, "Yeah, we'll get you a job, but you're coming to do the panels." By that time, The Last Jedi was already done. It was just in just post production. Because we were reading the Aftermath 2 novel, and Wedge got an absolute battering in Aftermath 2, crippled, his leg. And I was saying to Brian, Wedge is going to die in book 3. He's going to go out in a blaze of glory in the Battle of Jakku. Thought he was going to. Yeah. When at the time when these were written, Wedge was no longer a factor in Star Wars. He wasn't coming back.
Exactly.
And then book 3, he barely has anything to do with book 3.
Yeah, at all.
Wedge.
Yeah.
It's like he's almost written out. He's got like a couple of scenes that, where he pops in to save the day. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, at least we know now that's confirmation. Now he's going to be in episode 9. I wish we would have had more than a small cameo.
With that.
Again, I have asked Chuck now that he's been let go.
Right.
But he's tight. Yeah, obviously he's tight-lipped on it. But you never know unless you ask.
Yeah, fair play to him though. He doesn't have to say.
I'm actually not going to release my list just yet, and I have a reason. I'm actually working on the novel ranking list for 2020 right now. and I don't really want to
nice.
blow the proverbial wad and show the top 5 right off the bat. You know what I mean? So
Sure,
I'm torn because I want to answer it so bad, but at the same time, I don't want to basically like null and void the last 10 minutes of my video. You know what I'm saying? Like it's weird. What
I think
about,
that's totally
what
fair.
about you, man?
I
Yeah,
can
'cause-
offer up some of my favorite novels here. As was already stated, Twilight Company by Alexander Freed and Lost Stars by the incomparable Claudia Gray, and then Bloodlines, but basically all the gray ones. I do love James Luceno as well. I thought Catalyst was a really good companion.
Oh, yeah.
Rogue One.
Yes.
And I really liked Tarkin by James Luceno. I really loved the exploration of Tarkin and his upbringing on Ariadu.
Yeah.
It was just a really well thought out, imaginative novel. And James Luceno has been on my radar for years because his Jedi Order
the Obi-Wan
back
book.
in the old. Yes. Oh, absolutely. He great novels as well.
Yeah.
And,
Tarkin's great though.
Yes,
The whole
Tarkin.
that family ritual, was it? On your 16th or 18th
Yeah.
birthday?
Go
Was it
hunting
16th
for 3
birthday?
months. Yeah.
The family ritual, you just like go off. And it feeds into that Vader comic. Remember that Vader comic
Yeah.
where Vader turns
Yes.
around and says, "Look, hunt me down." I'm like, oh my God, this is great. This is where I'm starting to feel rewarded for reading these novels because they're paying off. Okay,
Exactly.
I don't collect comics because I collect too many, and so I don't follow the comics. You know, that's why I got your Twitch streams to follow. You read those comics, so I don't have to. You know, or when Brian would review his comics, you know, every Wednesday back in the day. You know, so I wouldn't have to get the comics. I'd get the omnibuses when they were released.
That's
Brian, I
awesome.
hope you do silly voices because I find that it helps.
Does it? Does it really help? Nobody likes listening to my silly
Gunky.
voices because I'm no good. Like, I can sit here and talk on a microphone for hours on end. I have no problem, but I can't not sit here and read something. I for some
Right.
reason, when I start reading, apparently I'm just a dumb reader because I cannot. I just nobody wants to listen to me read anything because you
Send it
guys
to
hear
me,
me
man. I
reading
can
these
put a
mailbag
Richard
questions
Burton
once in a
spin on it.
while.
There you go.
I fumble through them. Do what?
Send it to me, man. I could put a Richard Burton spin on it.
Fair enough. We could do that. Yeah, no, man, that Tarkin novel was awesome. And one of the things that really stood out for me in that novel was when he's talking to his parents and he says, you know, if I die, will you miss me? And they're like, yeah, we'll miss you. You won't have been worthy of the Tarkin name, but we will miss you. And I was just like, that is
know.
cold.
Oof.
Cold,
Yeah.
man. Damn. Ice cold. So, yeah, it is great book. And actually, our co-host, Usuf Wally, just read that for the first time. So I'm thinking,
Just finished it.
yeah, I'm thinking because Usuf is kind of new to canon. I brought him on because obviously he's a great follower of the podcast. He's a great guy in general. If you guys saw half the stuff we talk about in our private chat, this guy's he's a gem. But I like the fact that he's reading a lot of these novels for the first time, and we can bring that to the podcast, and he can kind of, we're getting
Some
these fresh
fresh
reviews.
eyes.
Yeah. And it gives us a chance to kind of revisit the novels. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of these I've only read once so far. I've read them as they come out, but there's so much coming out that you can't really go back and reread some of the old ones. So he's read it for the first time, and I don't want to really like blow his his review of it, but I know he really enjoyed Tarkin. He really dug that novel a lot. So yeah,
There's a lot to love there. It's
there's
really
so
well written,
much.
very thought out.
And to bring back the Carry-On Spike from Clone Wars, it was just awesome to see how and even beyond Tarkin and into the sequel trilogy where that ship ended up, absolutely awesome. So yeah, that's a good. I'm glad you brought up Tarkin because that's one of my. It's not on my top 5, believe it or not, but it's
an honorable mention.
Such a good
It deserves
book.
an
Yeah,
honorable mention, doesn't it?
it's so good. So. Hermitcraft, thanks for sending in the question, man. Do appreciate it. Question number 3 this week comes from Roy Parsons. And Roy says, hey, Brian, big fan. Listen to you guys on Apple Podcasts. Love the new co-hosts and the direction you're taking the show and community. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. He says, my question is this, and this is the question we were kind of knocking on earlier. If Boba Fett is a clone of Jango, is he really a Mandalorian? Jango was a foundling, and Boba is Jango, but not the Jango that was found. Please help me wrap my head around this. Help me, Canon Crew. You're my only hope. So we kind of got a little bit of an answer of this tonight on The Mandalorian. But it almost feels like it's one of those from a certain point of view answers. You know what I'm saying?
I
It's
do
from
I
That's
do
it.
love the
Katan's
timing
point
of this question
Yeah.
right after the Mandalorian finale, where we got an answer from the man himself.
Yeah,
That's it,
because we got this
yeah.
question like 2 or 3 days ago is when I found it on the email. So yeah, it's kind of a good timing. So
It's very much a twin son's answer. You know, the truth is often what we make of it from a certain point of view.
is Boba a Mandalorian though?
Boba doesn't care. He hasn't sworn in any creed. He stated that, you know, in an earlier episode. He hasn't sworn any creed, no allegiance to no man. He doesn't care about Mandalorians. He doesn't care about Mandalore. He cares about his father's armor. That's it. Now,
The resentment in his voice when he said Mandalorian.
That's it, yeah. Now, that doesn't mean to say he's not a Mandalorian just because he doesn't care about it. But, I mean, you could look at this from many angles. I like the fact that it's still currently a grey area. Keep that mystique, keep a bit of grey to it. But for the record, just for the sake of answering the question, based on what we know so far, I would say that the fact that his name is encoded into the armor that's been passed down, because I can't recall the name of the master that
Jaster Mareel.
Jaster Mareel. Yeah, I was
yes,
so glad
and
they
that's
brought
the
that name
logo.
back in.
That's the logo on Boba Fett's armor in the
Yes.
top right hand corner of his chest. That's his the logo. So technically, I'm going to say yes, he's a Mandalorian, though I don't think he gives an absolute shit about it. And it's clear that the others feel exactly the same way about him. Maybe not Din, because Din's bonded with Boba. Din understands Boba, because Din, you know, as we see at the beginning of the show, was a bounty hunter as well, living underground with the rest of his clan. So he understands where Boba's coming from, because he's also been shunned or has shunned other Mandalorians, you know. Case in point when we see Bo-Katan for the first time in live action, where he just says, "You ain't Mandalorian," just jets off. So technically, I'd say Boba is a Mandalorian, but I don't think it's something that he treasures in any way, shape, or form. It's just nothing more than a title on a birth certificate.
Kyle?
I would say that Boba doesn't claim to be a Mandalorian, but acknowledges that his father Jango was. And so if you're going to put it in technical terms, Boba Fett is the son of a Mandalorian. That's the clearest way you could put it without any shadow of a doubt. And the fact that it's not fully defined, that there is that mystery there, I hope that stays. And I hope we don't ever get a 100% black and white, because that's kind of part of Boba Fett. He is this mystery, you know.
That's it.
The chain code in his armor mentions several different elements of open seasons, like Jaster Mareel, Concord Dawn.
That's it, yeah.
All of that backs up the claim that Jango was a full Mandalorian foundling, which we saw happen in the comic. And then he had a son who did not necessarily subscribe to the creed, but he is the son of a Mandalorian, no matter how you slice it.
So the only reason that I would disagree with you, Kyle, the only reason is because I'm kind of on the fence with, is a clone really your son or daughter? I'm kind of on the fence about that, because we had the same kind of thing with Rey and Palpatine, with her father being a clone of the Emperor. So technically, wouldn't that be the Emperor? But the thing, I don't know how I feel about the whole clone being an offspring thing, though. That's the only reason I would disagree.
Well, considering that they have an emphasis on a system of adoption in Mandalorian society, I would assume that that if you raise someone, they're your child. And no argument can be made that Jango raised Boba.
Yeah, no,
he didn't
right
just
about that,
have Boba as like, oh yeah, that's my clone. He does his thing over there in the corner. Like he spent time with him. He did activities with him. Zam Wassell was his reading teacher. Like he tried to give Boba a good upbringing, and I think he was absolutely a father figure. And anyone that places significance on the power of adoption would also give that credit to Jango and Boba's relationship.
That's right. Yeah.
So yes, he's a donor, as Bo-Katan pointed out.
That's fair.
But
that was a cold line too.
Yeah,
and maybe not his father, but he's definitely his daddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
this is where the two societies can offer two different perspectives, because you've got the Death Watch, the Children of the Watch, the Creed, where you could take a foundling, doesn't matter. You know, it's not a race of people; it's a creed. But you go back to the Clone Wars, you know, if you were, you know, living in Mandalore and your parents were Mandalorians, you were born on Mandalore, you were a Mandalorian, regardless if you took a creed or not. It was a completely different society. So even if one side says yes, the other side can say no. That doesn't adhere to the ancient traditions of Mandalore. Yeah, but we've moved on from that. But it does not adhere to the ancient traditions of Mandalore. So you can have both sides give a different answer and still not resolve it, which feeds into what I was saying earlier, that I like the mystique, and what Kyle said as well. Keep that mystique. I'm glad we've got these two different sides that give opposite answers to the same question.
Yeah,
and Boba's in the middle,
promotes
just doesn't care.
speculation.
That's it, yeah. And Boba's in the middle. It's like, yeah, whatever, just give me my armor back. Let me repaint it. I saw, do you know what? Before we finish this particular question off, I saw this tweet, and do you know what? This is probably the funniest thing I've read all year. Somebody was complaining about the fact that the armor was repainted, and that it didn't look the same. It's not the same. Why is he painted it? We never painted it in the original trilogy. Well, first of all, he lost it. You don't miss something till it's gone. And he followed on with another one and to say, well, why is the dent in the helmet still there? I was like, well, the fucking paint job doesn't remove a dent. Come on.
There's a very specific reason why Boba repainted the armor, actually, in my opinion. Up until the point where he lost it, every scratch and scrape collected on
was a battle scar.
Was the legacy of him and also his father.
That's it, yeah.
And now he gets it back, and it's got all these new dents and scrapes that were added by some Cobb Vanth guy who's not part of his legacy. He's like, well, that can't happen. We need to start from scratch. And it also was like symbolic of his rebirth as a character too, because he's shedding the mantle of being some Empire-aligned bounty hunter out for himself. Now he's actually contributing to a larger purpose, and that's a Boba we've never seen before. So it's a rebirth.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys on that. It's not as simple as they just stopped by Sherwin-Williams planet on the way, and he's just like, hey, I need a new splash of color.
That's actually amazing canon detail, if I may. They didn't stop anywhere.
I know.
He had that paint on the ship because it's the ship paint.
Yeah. I'd like to see the slave.
And he learned that from his father. That's another thing he trained him, because Django wore polished Beskar with just a blue accent on the helmet, and it's the exact same shade as blue as the slave one at the time. So he taught Boba, hey, keep your ship paint on hand. Use it to dud up your armor if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, which, by the way, Jay, since we're on this topic of Boba Fett's armor, I mentioned, I don't remember which episode it was, a couple episodes back, I brought up the Mandalorian helmet that Boba used to try to assassinate Windu in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Remember, we didn't know if that was the same helmet or not. So we've got a confirmation finally, and I think it was from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back. There's a confirmation that was a decoy helmet that he used in Clone Wars. It was more symbolic than anything, and the helmet that he actually still has was the one that Django wore. So
yeah, I think that was episode 40. I think it was the first episode that I joined you on.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But yeah, I mean, it would make sense to me that it's a decoy helmet.
Yeah, he wouldn't blow up
because it's too sentimental to him. I mean, you go back to Attack of the Clones, and he's standing in the middle of a battlefield on Geonosis, and he's squatting down. Little Daniel Logan is squatting down with the helmet in his hands, and he's pressing his head to it. That scars a man. I mean, he's still a child. It'll scar a fully grown man. He's scarred, and this infant who's standing in the middle of all these Jedi and all these Geonosians and battle droids, these B1s, these B2s. Yeah, it's left a constant mark.
I will add to it too. We were also talking about, I think somebody commented on that podcast and said they weren't sure if Boba would still hold a grudge that far out. And we know from that same novel that he is still holding that grudge against Windu. At the time of Empire, he's still pissed off about it. Yeah, so
that's just that grudge is his fire.
It's what's keeping him going. Exactly.
I can see him like getting over a grudge about someone stealing a bounty from him, not murdering his father.
Right.
Yeah,
that ain't never going away.
That tends to dig in and bury itself. So, thanks for the question, Roy. Do appreciate it. Question number 4 this week comes from Emily Manning. And Emily says, hey guys, I love your podcast and wanted to tell you you're the reason I am planning on reading and watching all of it during 2021. I was wondering if each of you had some recommendations on where to start and why, and maybe a couple of suggestions on stuff that I could possibly push to the back of the list. Oh, I've got some stuff you can push back to the back of the list. I just downloaded your app and was shocked to see how much there really is, and it looks expensive. You always hear people say there isn't a lot to the new canon, but it's insane for being just a few years old. Thank you for everything you do, and I hope to see your channel and brand grow like crazy in the future. Thanks for the question, Emily. I'm gonna give you some stuff that you can just kick straight to the back of the list because I'm passionate about that. Heir to the Jedi, get rid of it now. Don't even touch it. It's so bad. Jay knows how much I loathe this novel. The
but you love
C-3PO
the
comic
3PO
isn't
comic,
great.
though,
Oh, I was
with the
just
red
getting
arm.
into the 3PO comic. Get rid of the 3PO comic. And
What
I
about the
wasn't.
Chewbacca one? You like the Chewbacca comic, don't you?
You
I
can
handle
probably
3PO
sleep
more than I can Chewie.
on you could probably sleep on Last Shot by Daniel Jose.
That's the other
Older
one I was going to
also.
say. You could
That's the
probably
novel
push
that
that to the
got
back.
dropped out of canon. The last what was it? I think it was the second Throne novel and Last Shot, because the books had, because these are dealing with big name characters, Han Solo, Throne. You go back to Rogue One, right? Rebel Rising, right? Beautiful story, man. Just a start and a finish. You just flowed through it. Last Shot and the Throne books, because these are big characters that they're dealing with. The story hasn't been written at the time these novels were written. You're jumping back and forth in time every single chapter. It's not so bad with Throne, because there's one chapter that's Throne and Anakin. Second chapter is Throne and Vader. Right, I understand what's happening.
And they made it a point
But
to
when
say
it's-
that at the beginning of the chapter.
Han and
yeah.
Lando. Well, what are we talking now? We're talking Han and Lando from Solo. We're talking Han and Lando from Empire Strikes Back, or
Right.
Return of the Jedi. Where are we going with this? And in the end, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to put the books down and wait for a while until they start filling in the gaps, and I can read them like I did with Legends. Just pick a book. Truce of Pakura is where I started when I decided to make sure I go through canon.
You went chronological, right?
Yeah, I started first with Splinter of the Mind's Eye. That's a book that my friend gave me. He gave me a bunch of books.
That's a good one.
Okay, if I'm going to read any book first, let me go back to 1978 and read this book before the sequel came out to see how people envisioned these characters growing. Because if I read that book after I'm 20 deep into the EU, it ain't going to work for me. So I read that. Then I read Rogue Squadron, the first one, right? X-Wing book one, Rogue Squadron. Mike Stackpole.
Yeah, Stackpole.
Love you. And that's when I thought to myself, right, I'm in on this. I'm in. And I had the Jedi Academy trilogy, one big omnibus book, massive thing it was.
Kevin J. Anderson.
That's it, yeah. And I thought, right, okay. I looked at the timeline, which used to be printed in the front cover of the book, on the inside of the front cover. You saw a timeline, and they'd show you all the books that were published up to that date and where they were in the timeline. I thought, right, okay, stop before I read this book. Go and find out.
That convention they had going was so good. Every book not only had the canon timeline in chronological order, then they had a map of the galaxy showing you where all the relevant locations were, and then a dramatis personae explaining everybody in the book.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I really wish they were doing that with the new canon as well.
And then I made the decision then to say, okay, well, I'm going to go back and read them in chronological order. Where do I start from? I thought, well, to begin with, I'll start from Return of the Jedi to begin with. And I got to the end of the young reader novels, which was when Luke was training Jason, Jaina, and Anakin, and Ben, just before Vector Prime, which came out in 2001, before the new Jedi Order started. So
Salvatore.
I know you got some explaining to do. that book went down. That book, man. That book almost cast a revolt back at the time.
R.A. Salvatore was my first experience with the ugly side of Star Wars fandom.
But I got to that point. I thought, right, okay, I'm comfortable with this point. I did dip back one or two times to novels that were based around Empire Strikes Back. You know, case in point, Shadows of the Empire. Come on, that had to be read.
Great novel.
You know what I mean? You know, if you're gonna read a novel, read it. Shadows of the Empire.
That was one of the few novels that they made an entire action figure line
to accompany the album and the video game. So I decided to go all the way back to the Dawn of the Dawn of the Jedi? It's the first one.
Yes.
Or I went all the way back 25,000 years and read them all the way up.
Wow.
Like 300 novels in total. Maybe a little bit more than that.
Jay's our resident Legends expert.
Although I own every single EU novel, there's only one that I never read, and that's because Aftermath came out before I had a chance to open the book, and that was Crucible, the last novel in the EU timeline.
Oh, I have Crucible. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
I've got it. I never read it because by the time I got around to reading that, Aftermath book 1 dropped on my door. So, new material, canon material. Let's have a read. And I never went back to Crucible. But to answer though, let's go back to Emmy's question.
Yeah,
I don't wanna...
speaking of canon materials, with regard to the two canon
Lost.
Battlefront novels, I would say that Inferno Squad by Christy Golden is more relevant to the actual canon universe, but Twilight Company by Alexander Freed is a better written novel. So
It is.
you'll get more useful nuggets from Twilight Company, but you'll have a better from Inferno Squad, but you'll get a better experience with Twilight Company. That's my takeaway.
I think I'd give Emily 3. Is it just books or comics or
She said she's
material,
going
or just particularly
She
books?
said she's going through everything, and I don't think
Okay,
she's.
all right.
I don't
All right,
remember.
okay, cool.
Start your comics with Skywalker Strikes. Just start there with the 2015 releases
Yes.
and
She didn't
read it
say-
simultaneously with Darth Vader because they go back and forth in reference.
Okay.
She
on an
didn't say
issue by
she was
issue
going
basis.
chronologically either.
So
She just said she was going to read it
if-
all. So she was
if
just
we're
trying to
gonna
figure out where
go-
to start.
If we're going to go all material, for the sake of all material, I will say, if you haven't already, season 3 of the Clone Wars, watch the Mortis arc.
Yes.
Because that feeds into a lot of what we see with Ahsoka and the owl that was in the Mandalorian episode. Morai.
Morai. Yep.
In terms of novels, I'd start off with the Princess Leia novel by Claudia Gray. I'd then go to Lost Stars by Claudia Gray and Bloodlines. Those are the 3 novels, at least focus on, the core trilogy that we're all familiar with. It also as well, fleshes out Leia in a way that hasn't yet been really touched on. There are some elements of Leia which I'm a bit disappointed that they haven't yet touched on in the same fashion that they did in the EU with Tatooine Ghost, where she comes to peace with who she is. In the canon timeline, we go from Return of the Jedi to Bloodlines for Leia. And there's no, okay, you've made peace with it. You haven't told many people, but you've made peace with it. Where's the part of your struggle to come to peace with it? That I'd like to see. But those are the 3 novels that I would suggest. Claudia Gray, you can't go wrong with Claudia Gray.
Oh, at
she
all.
is
Yeah, no.
the
you can't.
epitome. She writes Star Wars. When you read Lost Stars, and then you put into context when you watch the original trilogy, you'll see just how much she can get Star Wars.
That's right.
Master and Apprentice is another one. Those I would say, if you're going to start somewhere, start with a Mortis arc if you haven't already seen it. You could maybe watch some of the Darth Maul episodes of Clone Wars, but if you're talking novels, go for Claudia Gray. Read Master and Apprentice, Leia, Lost Stars, and Bloodlines.
Yeah. No, great place to start. And part of me really wants to say start with Lost Stars because of the way it's kind of interwoven with the classic trilogy. If you start with the films, obviously, I mean, you watch the classic trilogy, and if you read Lost Stars, it's kind of a companion novel with the classic trilogy. If you really think about it, and it's telling its own story, and it's not so much of a love story, but it's there. It's not like 50 Shades love story, but it's there.
It's like her own installment of a trilogy wide, a certain point of view.
Absolutely.
They tell the original trilogy, but through the eyes of other people.
To get an idea of how the canon is going to be structured, I think reading Lost Stars is a good place to start so that you can see how these are going to be woven in with the films that are already there and kind of see things from another point of view. I would also personally, like these guys said, I'd start with Bloodline, amazing novel, and the Leia novel. I just absolutely amazing stuff.
Yeah, start with the young Leia first. Yes. Otherwise, you go from old Leia to young Leia.
Yeah.
But I will say though, just to amend my answer, purely because of where we may be going with the Filoni-verse, the Favreau and Filoni-verse, get the Thrawn novels under your belt. Get those Thrawn novels under your belt because
absolutely agree.
If we're all
at least the
Thrawn
first trilogy.
is a player.
At least the
Ahsoka
first trilogy.
as name dropped in Thrawn as a player. So get those Thrawn novels under your belt because that is going to massively play in to what we are seeing, hopefully what we're going to see when these 3 shows combine.
I think definitely the first trilogy of Thrawn, not necessarily this new trilogy we're in the middle of now, because it's outside of I don't want to say the Star Wars universe. It's still in the galaxy. It's still in the galaxy, but it's in the unknown regions.
It's outside of the main action.
Right.
Sure.
And what's funny is in that trilogy, they're calling the Star Wars, the Republic part of it, lesser space is what they're referring to it as. So
I like that though.
yeah, I do too. And
it really speaks to the Chiss superiority.
It does. So I wouldn't worry about the new Thrawn trilogy just yet, because that's more backstory. That's some advanced Star Wars stuff. But yeah, definitely the first Thrawn trilogy. So Thrawn Alliances and Thrawn Trees, and definitely look into those. Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. And what Kyle said with the comics, yes, start with Skywalker Strikes, because that shows you what the comics are capable of. That first
read
jog,
Skywalker Strikes in tandem with the Darth Vader release from 2015, though, because they go back and forth from issue to issue. Like,
and there's even the same scenes in a couple of them, just from
from opposite perspectives. It's
absolutely cool. So as a side note, real quick, Emily, hats off to you for trying to read all of this in a year, because that's an undertaking. So yeah, well done.
Hell of achievement if you pull that off.
Absolutely. So thanks for the question, Emily. Question number 5 this week comes from Timothy Strock, I think is how you say your name. And Timothy says, "Hey Brian, I had one of my questions on your podcast a couple of years ago and was hoping maybe this one would make the cut as well. I believe I had asked you if you thought Timothy Zahn was going to write a Thrawn novel detailing the story that we still haven't gotten of Thrawn and Ezra. Do you still think Zahn will write that book, or do you think we'll see it in Mandalorian? Glad to see you're still going on this show, and to see how far it's come. May the Force be with you." Jay, do you want to answer that one? Because I think you and I are on the same wavelength.
I think the majority of what we're going to learn will be through the Filoniverse, scattered through the multiple shows. However, you could do a novel. Yeah, it's fine. It's cool if you do a novel to fill in, just to compile it all together. But we'll see. We'll have a better understanding of it after this whole thing finishes.
Yeah, Kyle, what do you think, man?
Personally, I really hope that we do get it in a continuation in animation format. Then, like, if I had to rank them, I'd say animation, then live action, then a novel. But why not have Timothy Zahn involved with writing every step of the way? I'd love to see Timothy Zahn try his hand at writing in a TV show. I know it's a very different medium, but it could be very great.
Absolutely. I'm of the mindset it's going to be during the Ahsoka series. I think that's what they're building up for. I think that's what that story is going to end up being. And if they're going to end Mandalorian and Rangers of the New Republic and Ahsoka all at the same time, what better villain to bring in than Thrawn, and actually finally show the downfall of Thrawn? You know what I'm saying? I think that's
set in the same time period as well.
Yeah,
same time period of the EU. It's exactly the same time when Thrawn comes in.
Yep. So I definitely think that's where that series is going to end up being. So,
speaking of which, live action Thrawn, I'm throwing my hat in the ring for Lars Mikkelsen.
Oh yeah, we've been saying since they started rumors of Thrawn, like back before Force Awakens came out. When soon as Lars Mikkelsen came on for Thrawn if you guys remember, Thrawn back in the 90s, right, had, depending as to when in the 90s, if you go to the early 90s, he's got the sort of Pierce Brosnan GoldenEye hair. It's quite floppy. You go to the late 90s, he's got the Tom Cruise short back and sides. Now you come to Rebels Thrawn, he's a completely different looking character. He's elongated, he's got a long face, he's got a square jaw, he's got raised cheekbones, he's got a receding hairline and a high forehead. Lars Mikkelsen is a screen actor and has all those same traits. They've modelled Thrawn off Lars Mikkelsen because they had some plan to get Thrawn on the screen, and Lars was the man to do it, to keep that flow, because they didn't want to have another issue with Ashley Eckstein where they didn't know if Ashley Eckstein would be able to transfer from the one medium to the other. I'm sure talent-wise she could, but because we'd all be happy with Ashley Eckstein. But when you show Ahsoka getting taller and taller and taller as she gets older, well, Ashley's quite short, so they had to go with a recast. So I think with Thrawn, they thought, right, let's cast a man for animation and live action, and that's why they modelled Thrawn completely different to what he's ever looked like before. Facial structure, and they modelled him off Lars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, look, after this last episode of Mandalorian, I'm not putting anything past them at all. There's no way. Nothing is impossible at this point.
We'll see on live action. We'll finally see that one maneuver that was famous in the old expanded universe, where they shoot ion cannons at the Star Destroyer, and it's not deactivated, but Thrawn says, right, list it to the one side, but have our hangar bay pointed the other direction. And all the Republic forces come towards them thinking that they've won. And every single TIE fighter is behind the Star Destroyer, waiting. And as they get in range, they sweep under the Star Destroyer and over the top, the Chimera. They come out in a flanking pattern and on either side as well, and they decimate the New Republic forces.
Anyway. It's going to be insane, dude. That's what it's leading up to. I guarantee it.
I would love to see that in live action.
Yeah. Come full circle.
Yeah, nothing's impossible at this point. At this point, I'm not even going to be shocked if we see Han, Luke, and Leia together again at some point. That's
what I said to you. I said that
I'm not going to be shocked.
12, 13 hours ago? I said, holy shit, Han Solo's still alive. Are we going to see Han Solo with Chewbacca in the Falcon, a cameo or something, in this finale?
I would love to see more fleshing out. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm not putting anything past it. Nothing at all. Absolutely. So, yeah, thanks for the question. Do appreciate it. Let's get on to question number 6. Question number 6 comes from Leo Davis. And Leo says, who won in the Yoda-Sidious fight and why?
Sidious.
You think
Sidious?
Sidious
He beat his ass. Yeah, he beat ass. The dark side, the downfall of the Jedi. Sidious won.
Yeah, it all comes down to, what happened when the fight ended. Like, Sidious went on to rule the galaxy for 23 years.
Right.
Yoda went on to make some mud stew in a hut.
Yeah.
it seems like night and day to me. Like, Sidious definitely came off the better of the two of them.
I would say, yeah. I still think he got embarrassed at the end of that fight, hanging on like hanging off the
after getting
platform.
His legs stuck in the air in the chair.
Yes, that was just oh god. Yeah, and then getting his ass thrown across the office. Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna have to say Yoda. Sidious. I'm gonna have to say Sidious won that fight because like you guys said, he went on and he ended up completing his plan because of that. Now it makes you wonder: had Yoda and Obi-Wan switched places, would Obi-Wan have been able to beat the Emperor?
No,
or you don't think so?
I think it would have resulted in an Emperor with no Padawan.
I think that's exactly what would have happened. Yeah, because Yoda wouldn't have left him for dead. He'd have finished him. Yeah, so
Obi-Wan would have died, Anakin would have died, and then it would have been Palpatine Yoda all over again. So it just would have delayed their one-on-one fight by like a couple more hours.
those would Anakin or not Anakin. I keep wanting to say Anakin. Obi-Wan and Yoda should have teamed up and then went and took care of one, and then went and took care of the other. Instead of
but that's some video game logic.
That's exactly what that is.
Again, that feeds into the narrative of the failure of the Jedi. Instead of teaming up, staying together, they separated again.
Yeah, we just trust in the Force and we'll be fine.
That feeds into the narrative. That's why the continuing narrative in the original trilogy, when Ewan McGregor says, "I have failed you, Anakin. I'm sorry." Even as a Force ghost, when he's talking to Luke in Return of the Jedi, when Luke is saying, "There's still some good in him," and when he turns to Luke, and says, "He's more machine now than man." Right. Even in death, he still fails Anakin, which feeds into the whole redemption arc, But what's the next name? Thanks, Leo.
So we're all in agreement. It was Sidious.
Yes,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Question number 7 comes from Sarah Cruz this week, and Sarah writes in, Star Wars Canon Podcast. I love your content and show. I can tell you guys are incredibly passionate about Star Wars, and it's great to have a positive beacon within the fan base instead of canon bashers and Disney haters. Well done, and keep it up. We need you. Thanks for the kind words, Sarah. Do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah. Are we ever going to get a Snoke origin story, or are we just to assume that he was simply a throwaway clone? And if he was a clone, who was he a clone of? Palpatine, Vader? Would love to catch your opinions on this. I think what you see is what you get with Snoke. I don't think there's much more to it than that.
You think he looks weird just because?
Genetic splicing, I think.
I mean, the clones, the other clones in Rise of Skywalker look exactly like him. So I don't think it was I don't think it was a what's the word? A defect in the cloning. I don't know.
I think it's a little bit of both of those. Go ahead.
Based on the fact that we know that Gideon is trying to extrapolate the Force from Grogu, eventually all the research makes its way back to Palpatine. So I think Palpatine is just taking however many, there could be hundreds and thousands of years worth of research in this project. And I think he's spliced bits of DNA from everything that he can find that fits the project. And it's an amalgamation, a collection of all different DNA spliced together. Could be wrong, but at the moment, it's not even been written. So who knows?
It's very much undefined. I like to think that Snoke is what happens when you clone a clone of a clone of a clone of a clone of an old ass man.
A copy of a copy.
Yeah.
Exactly, copy of a copy. The genetic material is just sort of degraded. And
it degrades with each generation.
To what we're seeing, kept alive in a tank that acts like a womb. I did notice that the blue glow from within the tank was very distinctly similar to the same blue fluid-filled gestation pods that we've seen clone infants in on Camino.
Right.
So it's very clearly a cloning thing. I just think that he looks weird because he's a copy of a copy.
Yeah. I feel like Snoke was just simply an avatar for the Emperor to be able to go out into the galaxy without going out into the galaxy. I think basically all it was. So yeah,
like that weird Bruce Willis movie from a few years back.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Surrogates or whatever it's called.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I think that's exactly what that was. I don't think that was the plan the whole time. I don't think that was the initial intention, but I think that's where it ended up going. So would I like to see a Snoke novel at some point? I'd read it, but I just. We got like a briefest little introductions to like pre-sequels Snoke in the Rise of Kylo Ren. Yeah.
In the little forest dome.
He was he was some weird, kindly looking gardener type.
Yeah, with his little die cap on.
I don't know. He freaked me right out. I would not have trusted him.
Yeah, no, he had that creepy
like. The police, sir. You shouldn't be in this park.
Yes. Yeah, like you need you. Like
this is the man you should tell your children.
Shouldn't be within 300 meters of a school, like that kind of creepy vibe.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
oh, I'm just trimming my lilies over here. Don't mind me.
Hi, Carla. How you doing?
Oh God, yeah.
I know. Yeah. And now that you say that, he did have that vibe.
Come over here, smack you on your penis. Right. Next question.
Take that ridiculous thing out.
Oh, jeez. And you just really ruined Last
and we
Jedi
did
for
it.
me.
We killed the podcast.
Oh my God!
Good job,
you
guys.
Can't kill this thing. Trust me, man. No, you can't do it. I think this next one's gonna be the last question of the night because we had another one picked out also, but I don't think we're going to address this last one. Mainly, there's a lot of I don't want to say a lot of negative comments, but there's definitely a negative vibe around it. So I think this next one's gonna be our last one. I don't think you guys are gonna object to that, are you?
No. That sounds fine to me, but
okay.
I do have one. The comment that we won't read did give me an idea of something that I would like to say.
Okay.
Which is that Star Wars Visions is extremely exciting to me.
Is it really?
Animated anthologies are so much fun. I watched the Animatrix DVD so many more times than I watched the actual films. I love it when a franchise is willing to go super creative and just play around with it, offering opportunities to different artists from different genres. I'm so stoked for that. That's just to clear the air. There are people out here who are excited for Star Wars Visions, and I count myself among them.
Yeah, if that gives you guys any idea of kind of what this question was, so
I mean, just look at everything that was announced. Everyone's been crying for Obi-Wan for years. Boba Fett stories, that was just announced. Dark Side stuff, that was just announced. So yeah, okay, all right, move on.
Fair enough.
If it's not for you, that's sad, but.
Yeah, I know. I always try, like I said earlier, try to stay positive on this channel the best I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I say we just make this next and last one.
Every once in a while, a comment like this creates an opportunity to share some positivity, which is what I wanted to do just now.
No, you're good, man. Yeah, absolutely. I welcome as much positivity on this channel as I possibly can, unless you're talking about Heir to the Jedi, and then you can just, fuck right off. So... question number 8 this week comes from Christy Duncan, and Christy says, "Hello there, Brian, longtime listener and first-time question submitter, if that's a word. I am so excited about the Obi-Wan show and cannot wait to see it. I basically have 2 questions. First, is there anything in canon that says Obi-Wan and Vader never met between 3 and 4? And second, because it's a limited series, would you rather them release episodes week to week or drop it all at once? Been listening to your podcast for 2 years now and would love to hear your thoughts." I don't think there is anything in canon that says they never met.
No, there's nothing in canon. It's all just down to interpretation.
Matter of fact, I think there's
the only thing you could even reference, the only thing that you even come up and reference is the fact that Vader states, "When I left you, I was back the boy, now I am the master, or
Right.
I'm the learner, and I'm the master. But in Revenge of the Sith, he didn't technically leave Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan left him.
Right.
Obi-Wan left him by a lava riverside. But then you could pick semantics and say, well, actually, I did turn away beforehand. So you could pick it apart with semantics. But no, at the moment, there's nothing in canon.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to answer the second part of the question, I'm a massive fan. Good. I'm a massive flavour of season dumps. But with that, you don't get pros and cons. You don't get that weekly excitement. And I hope Disney stay on the side of dropping these weekly shows.
100% agree. The speculation between episodes is
Yeah.
part of the experience. You don't want to lose that.
That's right, yeah. I mean, there's great shows in the past have been season dumped, and within a month, they haven't hit the figures. They're a slow-burning show. They haven't hit those figures, and they've been canned. And great shows that had great potential, Dark Crystal. But
don't even twist that knife.
But with The Mandalorian, you look at all the excitement, the amount of hours that people have been speculating, theorizing, and talking about it on the. If this was in a playground, you'd have kids talking about it in work. You'd have them in the office or on a building site talking about it, and it creates that excitement. So even if someone had no interest in watching it, thinks actually sounds quite good, I'll give it a shot because it runs for 8 whole weeks instead of a 30-day period. I'll stick with the weekly.
I will say this. It's not explicitly stated anywhere that there was no interaction between the events of 3 and 4 between Kenobi and Vader. Jay brings up a really good point of the when I left you, I was but the learner, now I am the master. There are a couple other lines of dialogue which you can also consider. For example, Vader's words to Obi-Wan on the Death Star are, "You should not have come back."
Yeah.
That can be interpreted several ways and could imply a more recent meeting. But another line of dialogue is Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
That's the one
When
I'm
Luke
coming
is
to.
urging
Yeah.
Vader to turn.
That's it.
We haven't seen Obi-Wan implore Vader to give up the dark
Yeah.
side and embrace the good with
Right.
it.
Yeah,
So perhaps
that's it.
that interaction has yet to be seen.
Yeah.
So if you go to the dialogue for clues, you're going to get both answers. You're going to get yes and no because it is a little bit contradictory. But I, for one, am not closed to the idea of them interacting. There's nothing stating explicitly that they're not allowed to do that. So.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. I think there's more evidence pointing towards the fact that they did meet at some point. Especially Obi-Wan talking about how he's more machine now than man. Like, how would he know that? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So yeah, I think basically what my prediction is, Obi-Wan's going to find out Anakin's still alive, Vader's still out there, and maybe give it one more hurrah to go try to save him. I don't know, because even I was lucky enough to watch some of the footage, or watch that footage from the Disney Investors Call talking about Obi-Wan. I was able to get to watch that, and they were talking about how they're going to start on Tatooine and then kind of go from there and kind of see what happens. So I think Obi-Wan's going to actually leave Tatooine. I think
that makes me
a
lot more nervous than the thought of him interacting with Vader.
Does it?
He needs to be in isolation and a hermit.
Yeah.
To the point where it can't be convenient for him to leave Tatooine, to the point where why didn't he get a haircut? Why hasn't he been showering? What the hell, dude? You're you could have left at any point and gotten some groceries, and you're just so they have to preserve at least something of his exile.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It could just be something that they meet through a vision in the Force, and the battle could be between them, but not a physical battle.
I'm hoping we get a whole lot of Hayden Christensen with burn scars on his face in his chamber, communicating with Obi-Wan through the Force.
Yeah, and you can get then these great visuals where they have these battles in the Force. You could have Hayden, you could have Darth Vader, and every time he strikes his lightsaber, pieces of his helmet fall off, and you can expose Anakin underneath, and that's when Obi-Wan has the realization, oh shit!
Think about this too.
This guy that's trying to sort me out is Anakin. But
think about this too.
We'll see.
In the sequel trilogy, we had Snoke saying, "I bridged your minds between Kylo and Rey," right? And obviously they could see each other outside of that, but he was saying, "I that bridged your minds. I used it."
Yeah.
So basically, saying that was Palpatine that bridged their minds. Palpatine is still in the picture right now, so he could bridge the minds of Yoda and Obi-Wan. You know what I'm saying? Or not Yoda, of Vader and Obi-Wan.
I get what you're saying. Because going to the recent Vader comic run, because we see in all the Vader comics where he has a moment of struggle, of self-loathing, and as he slips, and you get to the end of Empire Strikes Back, and it's, he asks Luke to join him to kill the Emperor, rule the galaxy as father and son. And on the landing platform in Endor, Return of the Jedi, where he says, to leave the Emperor, he turns around and says, "You don't know the power of the dark side. I must obey my master," which feeds into what Kyle is currently doing, reading these comics, this particular comic strain of Vader between Empire and Return of the Jedi, where Palpatine wises up to what Vader's doing, and he just decimates Vader, crushes his limbs, dumps him back on Mustafar. Where he needs, what does this part to say? He needs another lesson. This is not the first time this has happened.
He needs to learn. He needs to be humbled. He needs to realize that he's not as powerful as he thinks he is compared to his master.
That's it. So this could very well be, as you said, they could certainly bridge minds for a period, and it could just be more punishment. I'm not against the idea of Vader tracking down Obi-Wan. Doesn't necessarily, because ultimately he still has no idea that Luke is on the planet. But if he is going to track down Obi-Wan, now I don't know who's going to be writing these shows. I know Deb is going to be directing them. I don't know who's going to be writing them. If it's Filoni, I know he'll make it work. I've got all the faith and trust in the guy. But if he's going to physically confront him, then Vader's going to need to walk off and leave him.
Right?
Are we going to get the whole twin sons? Look at you, a rat festering in the desert. I've come here to kill you, but maybe it's best if you live in squalor.
It also has to happen somewhat early on because of the other line of dialogue. A presence have not felt since, and then it trails off because Deborah Chow was off camera going, "Don't you finish that sentence."
Yeah, well, that's it. It's set 10 years after, so I don't know how long the episodes could have a time gap. I don't know. And then the final episode, then you see Alec Guinness, or Ewan McGregor, but dressed like Alec Guinness, old man. So I don't know.
I hope they get good old Joel back to play Owen again.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Kitster, fuck that. I want Kitster back in it. Bring back Kitster.
Yes. Hey, well, actually, never mind. I was about to say something really stupid, and then I realized the timelines don't work out. I was gonna be like, what if Obi-Wan hangs out with Cobb Vanth? Way after he's dead, never mind.
Hey, it's on Tatooine. You could see
Cobb Vanth,
young Cobb Vanth
would be alive.
Yeah, he'd be there.
It's true. We could get young Cobb Vanth played by Alden Ehrenreich.
Oh God. Oh my God. Well, fair enough. I think that's gonna do it for our episode. Hey, I want to thank Kyle Katarn for being on this week with us. It's been an absolute blast talking with you, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime you want to join in, man, let us know. We'll make it happen. Also, I want to let everybody know this is going to be the last episode of 2020. We're going to be coming back after the first of the year. We're going to be hitting it hard with High Republic. I basically gave the guys Christmas and New Year's off. So family comes first before, a stupid little podcast. So they get to go do that. So we will be coming back strong after the first of the year. Keep an eye out for the ranking videos in the next couple of weeks for the novels and the comics. I'm working hard on the novels one right now. I'll start the comics as soon as I get the novel one uploaded. I think that'll do it. Make sure to check out the Q&A event on Facebook and YouTube this coming Sunday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And game night. I wanted to talk about game night real quick because Jay was there for game night last night, and we had something really weird happen. I was broadcasting from the PS4, and for some reason, my PS4 decided to be an overachiever and was running 2 live streams of the same game at the same time.
Consecutively.
Yeah, and it was bogging me down like crazy, and I was losing connection over and over again. So I ended up scrapping game night number 19 completely. I think Tuesday night we're going to be doing game night number 19 take 2.
Okay.
And we're going to be doing squadrons. So if you guys want to join us to play some squadrons, we're going to be doing some custom matches.
Anon Squadron versus Gonk Squadron.
Yes.
I'm something of a squadron myself.
I'm going to have to sit this one out.
Yes, let's get Canon Squadron together, and Jay's going to have to pick a side because I know he's a member of both squadrons.
I'm joining Blind Wave. Blind Wave.
Oh, okay. I see how it is. All right. Okay.
Right.
We're going to get
treason.
Well, I can't pick between the two, but anyway.
Well, you know what they say: when loyalties get divided, just it's a match.
Right. Kyle, before you go anywhere, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me over on Kyle Katarn, my YouTube channel, or at twitch.tv/Kyle Katarn. You got a numeral 1 for the L there. Same handle, also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, pretty much all social media. Stay tuned. I actually have some pretty exciting things coming in the future here, including an original RPG adventure using the Fantasy Flight game Star Wars system, where I will play a Gungan detective with a Gonk sidekick named Stomper. Been filming that for a few months now, and it's going to be coming out January 1st, 21. Looking forward to sharing that with everybody. I hope people like it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I want to say on the podcast, on here, it's been an absolute honour following your channel since 23rd of March 2017. And thank you for coming on and doing me this solid favour, me and the boys here.
I appreciate the invite.
I want to tell everybody that's listening now, if you've not seen this guy's content, this guy hasn't scratched the surface of where he's going. He hasn't scratched the surface yet. He's got potential is running out of his ears, and I'm really excited to continue to support the channel and see where you grow this year, next year. I know this year's been a washout, but for content creators, as you said earlier, you've had time to really put some, extra time in and address your aspirations for the channel, where you want to take it, new avenues, and I'm excited to follow along with you.
Well, it's a party. Everyone is welcome and everyone is invited. This is a crazy roller coaster we're on together, folks.
That's right.
Unless your Blind Wave Squadron is death.
Yeah, then get out.
Get out of here.
There's the door, Jack.
Yeah, if you guys want to hop in on Squadrons with us, jump in on the Star Wars Canon Podcast Discord server. The link for that is in the description of this podcast. It's also on the homepage of the YouTube channel. Give us a join, man. Start talking some Star Wars with us. Drop J your EA account username, and we will get a match going Tuesday night. We'll hang out. We'll get in the chat, and we'll not to watch my language here for a second. I've been doing really good. I've been keeping it PG, but we'll fuck some shit up. So we will go,
Sounds
man.
like a plan.
Definitely.
You can find me on the Discord under Jarek Desan, brackets Gong666, brackets Canon1, or just hit me up on the Star Wars Canon Podcast Facebook page. Any messages that come through will come through straight to me.
And you guys can find me on the Discord, Canon Leader. So until next time, guys, this is the Canon Crew signing off, and may the Force be with you guys.